Chapter 1381. Thinking of this, many people immediately distanced themselves from the Yi clan to avoid being implicated by the Yi clan. Indeed, although celestial realm experts were considered experts in their respective forces, they were not considered much. However, on the Wind King planet, they were the top combat power, not to mention that the Sea clan had the unfathomable Ocean Emperor supporting them from the side. Who knew what the relationship between the Sea clan was like? What if the Ocean Emperor wanted to help Yu Yashuang? Yu Yashuang's huge aura instantly crushed Yi Shukong's body, firmly locking him in place, making it impossible for him to escape. The tyrannical strength that belonged to the celestial realm allowed her to completely suppress Yi Shukong. She could easily use the power of heaven and earth to completely suppress Yi Shukong. Although Yi Shukong was only a little bit away from the celestial realm, this difference was like heaven and earth. The iron sword in Yi Shukong's hand suddenly rang. The time he had cultivated was too short. If he was given a few more years, he would definitely be able to break through the barrier of the celestial realm. However, at this time, it was too late to say anything. He was one step slower, and the huge gap was enough for Yu Yashuang to completely crush him. However, he was fearless. At this moment, there was no way out. He could only fight to the death. The iron sword in his hand had an extraordinary origin. Although it couldn't be compared to the snow jade sword, it was still extremely rare. At this moment, an intense sword light erupted from it, causing the oppressive pressure to scatter and scatter. How dare a glimmer of light compete with the radiance of the moon? Yu Yashuang sneered. Tell me Yi Xuan's whereabouts honestly, then hand him over, and I will let you go. Otherwise, everyone from the Yi clan here today will die. Biting cold murderous intent and cold words came from the mouth of such a beautiful woman, but no one doubted whether she would keep her words, because she was a celestial realm expert, and that was enough. Good plan. Do you want me to lower my head today? If I lower my head today, will I still have the face to see others in the future? Yi Shukong could not help but sneer. The iron sword in his hand rang even more fiercely. The sword light began to protect him, resisting Yu Yashuang's murderous aura. In order to not be disturbed, Yi Xuan personally went to the Yi clan and led Wang Jinyu away. Now, whether he was alive or dead was unknown. Not to mention that he did not know Yi Xuan's whereabouts. Even if he did know, he would not say it. His path was to advance bravely. His path was unparalleled. Perhaps his path could be interpreted in many ways, but one of them was to repay kindness with enmity. Many people were watching this scene. Yi Shukong was extremely stubborn. If he lowered his head now, then Yu Yashuang might really let him go. He was not an ordinary person. He was the son of God in the Yi family. As long as the son of God didn't die, he would at least be as powerful as the leader of the Yi family. If such a person died, the Yi clan would definitely be furious. At that time, it was possible that it would lead to a war between the two clans. It was believed that Yu Yashuang did not want to see this, but Yi Shukong did not back down at all. A cold light flashed in Yu Yashuang's eyes. A white palm reached out, and boundless palm power swept down. Everyone was stunned. This was the real attack of a celestial realm expert. The pressure of a celestial realm expert swept out in all directions, suppressing the universe. Thump, thump, thump. Many experts who were half a step into the celestial realm hurriedly retreated. Experts in the celestial realm, even if they just casually attacked, had unmatched power. Just now, she had just restrained her aura, and now she had released it all at once. Many people who were slow to dodge were blasted away on the spot. This made everyone yearn to become a celestial realm expert even more. This was the life of a real person. And they had such strength, and also such potential. Why would they not dare to think about it? At this moment, Yu Yashuang did not look like a mortal at all. Instead, she was like a god. The terrifying big hand broke through the sky and instantly fell towards Yi Shukong. The iron sword in Yi Shukong's hand instantly clanged and broke free from his palm. It swept up a vast aura of the sword and rushed straight into the sky, slashing towards that white hand. Boom! A terrifying explosion sounded, and an unparalleled shock wave instantly swept out in all directions. Bang! Another loud sound was heard. The ground under Yi Xiukong's feet cracked, and his entire legs directly sank into the ground. On his resolute face, there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. This was the terrifying power of a celestial realm expert. Once she grabbed anything, it would be crushed to death. Even an expert like Yi Xiukong, who was infinitely close to the celestial realm, was seriously injured by her grab. And in fact, Yi Xiukong was even able to compete with some of the celestial realm experts who were at the bottom of the strength and could escape unscathed. However, Yu Yashuang was obviously not such a person. Not only was she not at the bottom, but on the contrary, she was among the best. This kind of power was really too terrifying. As for Yu Yashuang, she seemed to have steeled her heart to kill Yi Xiukong. Immediately, her white palm swept over for the second time, shattering the heavens and earth into a large area. Anyone who was swept by her white palm would be directly swept to death. And at this time Yi Qianqian, who had been at the side, finally broke through the celestial realm aura that came crushing over from Yu Yashuang. Boom! Her snow jade sword directly turned into a sky full of ice and snow, freezing the heaven and earth. It appeared in midair and directly slashed down towards Yu Yashuang. This sword was unstoppable, and unparalleled cold. Facing this terrifying snow jade sword, even Yu Yashuang did not dare to use her body to take it directly. Otherwise, the biggest possibility was that she would be pierced on the spot. The power of the snow jade sword was unparalleled, and just its unparalleled sharpness was enough to pose a threat to a celestial realm expert. Yu Yashuang hurriedly retracted her palm and brushed it towards the sword light. Boom! There was a huge explosion, and Yi Qianqian's snow jade sword directly tore a huge wound on Yu Yashuang's white palm. Blood dripped, and compared to the white palm, it looked especially ferocious. Everyone was shocked. What kind of sword was this? It could actually hurt Yu Yashuang, a celestial realm expert. How could it be so powerful? They all looked at Yi Qianqian in disbelief. It was hard to imagine that Yi Qianqian could actually have such a sword. It should be known that even a heaven-grade magic tool could not injure a celestial realm expert, because it was impossible for a half-step celestial realm warrior to display the power of a heaven-grade magic tool to its fullest extent, so it was impossible for it to truly injure a celestial realm expert. But who would have thought that Yi Qianqian, who had been restraining herself from making a move, would actually be so powerful? Although they knew that her snow jade sword was powerful, they only knew it. After all, they had never seen her actually use the snow jade sword to hurt a celestial realm expert. Although she was also powerful in the past, many people thought that it was related to her profound skills. Yu Yashuang frowned. Her wound had actually frozen, which directly delayed her attack. When she wanted to attack again, Yi Xiukong was already out of her threatening range. At this time, a human celestial realm expert said, Yu Yashuang, you don't have to be so aggressive. You are a celestial realm expert, and you are bullying a half-step celestial realm expert. What's the point? Although there were many factions within the human race, when it came to outsiders, they were still relatively united. If it was just a contest between half-step celestial realm experts, even if it was break the sky, they would not care much. But now, Yu Yashuang had also made a move, and she was a celestial realm expert. This seemed a bit like the strong bullying the weak. Everyone could not just stand by and watch, or else their reputation would be bad. I said that if you want me to let him go, it's easy. Hand over Yi Xiwen, and now I want him to kneel down and apologize. Then I will naturally let him go, Yu Yashuang said coldly after dispelling the cold air on her palm. At this time, the expressions of many experts of the human race changed one after another. What a ruthless heart. If Yi Xiukong really knelt down and apologized, it would mean that his heart of invincibility would be completely broken. Entering the supreme martial path would be a huge joke. Without the heart of invincibility, this person would be more or less crippled. You want me to kneel down and apologize? Dream on, Yi Xiukong said coldly. You better be able to kill me today, or else I will make you cry. Yi Shukong himself was also a character who would rather break than bend. How could he accept such humiliation? You're looking for death. Yu Yashuang's expression became even more angry, and she was about to directly attack. At this time, the snow jade sword on Yi Qianqian's body became even more excited. The sword's intention was pointed at Yu Yashuang, as if it was a warning, but also as if it was ready to attack at any time. Very good, very good. It's rare for a few top experts to appear in your human race, but you don't even cherish your own lives. Since you want to be buried with Yi Shiwen, then I will let you be buried with him. Today, all of you will die, Yu Yashuang said angrily. Even if the other party was the son of God, she did not care. She was really angry today. You are very proud. I will break your legs and see what expression you will have when you kneel down. Her expression was very ferocious. Who do you think you are? Is my big brother's name something that you can shout? Suddenly, a slender snow-white palm pierced through the sky and suddenly slapped towards Yu Yashuang. And Yu Yashuang could only watch in horror as this white palm slapped towards her face. There was no way she could do anything. Slap! However, there was a loud sound of a slap. Yu Yashuang was slapped on the spot, and half of her beautiful face immediately swelled up. This sudden turn of events caused everyone to be incomparably shocked. At this time, in the void, a slender figure appeared. Chapter 1382. It was a young girl of 16 or 17 years old, wearing a blue dress with silver edges. She had a delicate and pretty face, curved eyebrows and a small mouth, and long hair that draped over her shoulders. She was also extremely beautiful. Everyone was stunned. Who was this young girl? How could she be so terrifying? In terms of strength, although Yu Yashuang could not be said to be the best in the field, she could be said to be one of the best, but she could not even block a slap from this young girl. One could imagine the shock in their hearts. It was simply unparalleled. In the huge field, there were thousands of masters, but at this moment, there was dead silence, and no one spoke. All of this was too sudden. This young girl was too tyrannical. And Yu Yashuang herself was also stunned. No one had ever dared to slap her like this. This was even more abominable than seriously injuring her. She is Liya. As someone said the identity of this young girl, almost everyone was stunned. They did not expect that the person who came was actually Liya, who was ranked in the top 10 of the Hidden Dragons list. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, no one would have thought that this young girl, who looked a little thin, was actually Liya. It's her? No wonder she's so powerful! Someone muttered to himself. Although they were all in the heaven realm, it was obvious that the top 10 of the Hidden Dragons list were on a completely different level. This rumor was confirmed. As soon as Liya made a move, she shocked everyone and stunned everyone. What made everyone feel a little strange was, who was the big brother that Liya mentioned? Now looking at Yi Shukong's shocked expression, it obviously could not be Yi Shukong. Could it be Yi Shiwen? Thinking of this, everyone was even more curious about this Yi Shiwen, who they had only heard of but never seen. He actually had a relationship with Liya. Who didn't know that Liya was naturally cold, and ordinary people would not talk to her at all. Even the people of the Yi clan were a little stunned. This was really a twist. No one thought that it would actually develop like this. Yi Shiwen actually knew Liya. Even for them, Liya was an unattainable existence, almost the same concept as the Ocean Emperor. Liya really made a move, and indeed verified the fact that her strength far surpassed the ordinary Heaven Realm masters. Liya just smiled slightly at the people of the Yi clan, then turned to Yu Yashuang and said coldly, I just heard that you are not going to let my big brother go. You want Yi Shukong to kneel and apologize? Who are you to be so arrogant? He disappeared with Brother Zhenyu. I just want to ask about Brother Zhenyu's whereabouts. At this time, Yu Yashuang didn't have the confidence she had just now, but things had already come to this point. What else could she do? She could only brace herself and carry on. My big brother disappeared with him. I haven't found trouble with him yet. How dare you come to find trouble with the Yi family? It seems that you are very bold. After not seeing each other for so many years, Leah had long lost that timid look from back then and became even more decisive in killing. I'll give you a choice. Either kneel down and wait for my big brother to come back and punish you, or I'll break your legs and apologize to my big brother. Which one do you want to choose? Everyone felt an unparalleled murderous intent. Everyone could feel that Leah would definitely do what she said. It was as if Yu Shuang had touched Leah's reverse scale. Her murderous intent was cold. Leah, don't go too far. Yu Shuang suddenly flew into a rage, feeling that she had been greatly insulted. She could force Yi Shukong to kneel, even if he was the son of God. That was because she was in the heaven realm, and Yi Shukong was only half a step into the heaven realm. However, Leah was only in the heaven realm. This was simply going too far. As an expert in the heaven realm, she was already an expert in her own forces. Now that she was being threatened like this, it was even more uncomfortable than killing her. Even if this person was Leah, she couldn't do it. You're going too far. Is there anyone who is more outrageous than you just now? You just want to target him because your cultivation is one step ahead of them, the heaven realm. You even want to exterminate the Yi family. Now that my cultivation is above yours, I can naturally do whatever I want. Leah's tone became heavier, and her expression became even colder, as if ice could drip out. Leah, you always protect the Yi family. What is your relationship with the Yi family? Yu Yashuang shouted sternly. Then what is your relationship with the Wang family? The corner of Leah's mouth raised, seemingly smiling. Leah, don't go too far. No matter what, Yu Yashuang is also an expert of our Si clan. How can she kneel to a human warrior? At this time, a Si clan heaven realm expert stood out and said. Suddenly, there was a commotion among the human experts. What did this mean? Could it be that the experts of the human clan were born to kneel? Get lost, as far as you can. Leah showed her strong side. Yi Qianqian looked from afar, and could vaguely see Yi Shiwen's shadow in it. She couldn't help but sigh. If they weren't from the same family, they really were from the same family. Although they weren't master and disciple in name, they were actually master and disciple. This could be completely seen. Si clan, what a great name. Do you want to scare me with the Si clan? Leah said with a sneer. They're just some useless people. So what if I kill them all? The expressions of many Si clan experts changed drastically. Facing Leah, who was ranked in the top 10 of the Hidden Dragons list, none of them had the confidence. They were all afraid that she would suddenly kill them. What? Weren't you so majestic just now? Leah said coldly. Why are you so soft now? Bullying the weak and fearing the strong. And at this time, Leah directly attacked. Her white palm directly slammed down from the air. Countless starlight condensed on her palm. The starlight condensed into a cage, directly enveloping Yu Yashuang. 1,000-star tyrant palm! This palm technique in the hands of Leah had reached the acme of perfection. Everyone didn't even have time to react. They didn't expect Leah to actually attack. Even Yu Yashuang himself only had time to slightly defend, but he was instantly shattered by the starlight cage, directly bombarding his body. Boom! Yu Yashuang was directly blasted out on the spot. His body almost directly exploded in midair. At this time, he directly spat out a mouthful of blood, forming a blood mist that filled the sky. Everyone was silent. They were both Heaven Realm experts, and they were all top experts of the younger generation, but the result of the battle was such a polarized result. But when Yu Yashuang was about to hit the ground, Leah's big hand grabbed in the air. Yu Yashuang's body seemed to be attracted by a magnet, and directly flew up again on the spot. In the void, an energy rod formed and directly smashed towards Yu Yashuang's legs. Leah actually really wanted to fulfill her promise. If she didn't kneel, she would break her legs and make her kneel. Although Big Brother is not here, his name is not something that anyone can casually insult. Leah's expression was cold. Yi Shiwen was the reverse scale in her heart. Anyone who wanted to touch her reverse scale would make her go crazy. Enough. At this time, there was another cold shout. A big hand clawed towards the void, directly grabbing Li Ye's chi. Yu Yashuang also escaped from the disaster, and immediately struggled to escape to the side. That scene just now was simply too thrilling. Her legs were almost broken. If that was the case, how would she have the face to face others? At this time, she looked at the Ocean Emperor gratefully, because it was the Ocean Emperor who had saved her at the crucial moment. The Ocean Emperor stood with her hands behind her back. She didn't say anything, as if she didn't want to explain what just happened. Leah stopped, looked at the Ocean Emperor, and said, "Do you have anything to explain?" I said, "Enough." "Is this a farce?" The Ocean Emperor said coldly. "Farce? Do you think this is just a farce?" Leah said with a sneer. "So what if it is?" The Ocean Emperor didn't even bother to explain. Leah looked at the Ocean Emperor coldly. "This is between them in the first place. It's really not appropriate for you to interfere," the Ocean Emperor said. Yu Yashuang also took advantage of this time to recover from her injuries. After all, she was also a Heaven Realm expert. Although she was caught off guard by Leah just now, it didn't mean that she didn't have any strength at all. Chapter 1383. A cyan voice appeared in front of everyone. It was a young man in a cyan robe, striding over. "Yi Shiwen! It's really him. He's not dead. Sure enough, I knew that he wouldn't die so easily." At this time, Hui and the others showed a little excitement on their faces. "Big brother?" When Leah saw Yi Shiwen again, she couldn't help but be a little excited. After all these years, Yi Shiwen was the same as before. He didn't lose a bit, nor did he gain a bit. However, she had changed so much. Yi Shiwen's figure seemed slow but was actually fast. In just a few breaths, he had already arrived at the center of the field. Although he had expected it, when he saw Leah again, Yi Shiwen still felt that Leah's changes were much greater than he imagined. When she left him, Leah was just a little girl. Even after more than 100 years, she didn't change much. However, in just a few decades after coming to the ancient Baron's continent, Leah had completely grown into a slim and elegant girl. "You've grown up!" Yi Shiwen couldn't help but sigh. Time passed very quickly. Time didn't change much for him. His appearance was ordinary, but his strength continued to improve. In addition, he spent most of his time cultivating. It was common for him to not know the time. Hence, he didn't feel it. However, when he saw Leah, he really felt that many years had passed. Leah smiled a little shyly. In front of Yi Shiwen, she seemed to be the Yi Xiaoya who hadn't grown up yet. This made the eyes of many experts who were paying attention to this side almost pop out. Is this still the decisive killing goddess just now? Leah, are you really going to stand on the Yi family's side and go against our Xi clan? Yu Yashuang shouted sternly. So what if I am? Leah said unceremoniously. In front of Yi Shiwen, she was Yi Xiaoya. However, in front of everyone, she was still the Leah who made people tremble in fear. Forget it, Xiaoya. The Yi family's path can only be walked by us. No one else can help us, said Yi Shiwen with a smile. Although he still had a lot of things to say to Leah, and also wanted to ask where Leah and Li Feng had been all these years, it was obviously not the time to talk about this. Ha ha ha, this sentence is well said, Yi Shiwen. Just because of this sentence, you are a character. The Ocean Monarch suddenly burst into laughter and said, You're a real man, Leah. Neither you nor I should get involved in this. How about we let them handle it? Although the Ocean Emperor was asking Leah, Leah was looking at Yi Shiwen. She was slightly relieved to see Yi Shiwen nod. She had been with Yi Shiwen for a long time, and she knew Yi Shiwen's style very well. He wouldn't do this if he wasn't confident. Seeing that Leah promised not to intervene, Yu Yashuang immediately regained her courage. Without Leah, the people from the Yi family were nothing to worry about. So what if Leah was there? They had the support of the Ocean Emperor. The many elites of the demons and the 100 Races Alliance smirked coldly in the face of what was about to become a contest between humans and the ocean race. The grudge between the 4 races was also very real. After Yu Yashuang, a few celestial realm elites of the ocean race also smirked and surrounded them. The Yi family has been in the limelight recently. Yi Shukong, the son of God. TSK, what a great name. What a coincidence, I haven't really killed a god yet. Killing a son of God now won't tarnish my name. At this moment, a celestial realm elite of the ocean race stepped forward. Boom! A terrifying aura instantly overflowed from his body, accompanied by the opening and closing of all the scales on his body. In an instant, the aura spread out and swept out in all directions. This was an aura that belonged exclusively to those at the heaven tier. They had done this on purpose, and some people had also seen through their intentions. A son of God, no matter which race he was from, posed a great threat. They could use this opportunity to kill Yi Shukong. There was a hint of killing intent in his aura. While Leah was being watched by the ocean monarch, he appeared to attack Yi Shukong. There seemed to be runes carved on the scales all over his body, which were traces of the Great Path. His cultivation had already reached a shocking level. Anyone who could step into the celestial realm in the younger generation was not a genius, and each of them had extremely terrifying talent and strength. He looked like a deity, possessing an incomparable might. He stood there like a mountain, towering over the world. Yi Shukong, do you dare to fight? At this moment, that celestial realm elite of the ocean race smirked. This was an unparalleled aura that only belonged to celestial realm elites. You're bullying the weak. You've already stepped into the celestial realm, and now you want to kill Yi Shukong, who's only half a step into the celestial realm. Aren't you ashamed? Hui stepped forward and said, There's no need to find excuses. You and I are both in the younger generation, and our ages are similar. The difference in strength is the difference. There's no need to find excuses. If he's willing to kneel and admit his mistake, I'll let him go today. The celestial realm elite coldly glanced at Yi Shukong and said. Everyone could not help but feel that it was shameless. Indeed, they were both in the younger generation, and their ages could also be considered similar. However, in reality, this was the age when one's cultivation grew the fastest. After not seeing Yi Shukong for a few years, his cultivation might have improved by leaps and bounds. He was so much older than Yi Shukong, and now he was talking about being the same age. It was somewhat shameless. However, he did not care at all. Facing the somewhat contemptuous gazes of the crowd, he did not feel the slightest bit guilty at all. Let's fight! A gust of sword chi rose from Yi Shukong's body, and an iron sword directly cut through the sky, directly slashing down towards the celestial realm elite of the ocean race. Everyone was surprised. They did not expect Yi Shukong to be so unruly. He was full of pride, and even when facing a celestial realm elite, he would not be at a disadvantage, let alone be willing to lower his head. Fool! That celestial realm elite of the ocean race sneered, and immediately slammed his palm down towards Yi Shukong. His palm turned into a primordial divine mountain and crushed down. Boom! There was a terrifying collision sound, and the ground under Yi Shukong's feet directly collapsed on the spot, and his entire body was trapped in it. Some blood also flowed out from the corner of his mouth, but this blood was mixed with golden divinity, looking glorious and meaningful. Clang! Yi Qianqian directly attacked, and the snow jade sword cut through the sky, instantly sweeping towards that celestial realm elite of the ocean race. You dare to attack a celestial realm elite? How dare you? At this time, another female celestial realm elite of the ocean race stood out, successively pressuring the Yi clan. And looking at the human side, although there were a few celestial realm elites who also looked eager to fight, in the end, they did not make a move. Boom! A white palm directly slapped the long sword, and the snow jade sword was slapped down on the spot. Yi Qianqian also did not hesitate, holding the snow jade sword in her hand, and fought with this female celestial realm elite of the ocean race. The people of the Yi clan are really brave and invincible. 2 warriors half a step into the celestial realm actually dare to challenge 2 celestial realm elites. If it were us, I'm afraid we wouldn't have such courage. Really disappointing. At this time, that terrifying celestial realm elite only shook his head and sneered. I didn't expect that the Son of God who made such a name for himself is only this. This is really disappointing. Where's Yishuin? Rumor has it that you're above both of them. Come out for a while. There's no need for Yishuin to make a move. I'm enough to kill you. Yishukong sneered. I can't let loose here. If you have the guts, come over. Yishukong directly stepped out of a sword light, and his figure instantly flew into the distance. What's there to be afraid of? Just nice, in a place where no one will disturb us. See if I don't break all the bones in your body. This celestial realm elite of the ocean race revealed a somewhat cruel smile, and immediately chased after them. The two quickly disappeared into the horizon. And at this time, that female celestial realm elite of the ocean race also opened her mouth and said, What's the matter, Yi Qianshan? Let's go have a spar too. A somewhat jealous look flashed in her eyes. During this period of time, Yishuin's reputation had risen, and the number of suitors directly lined up from the human clan all the way to the ocean race, the demon clan, and the 100-clan alliance. This made her, who was also a woman, extremely unhappy. They were all female warriors, but why was there such a big difference? Yi Qianshan did not say much, and directly stepped out of a snowflake, her figure disappearing into the horizon, and that female sea race elite directly chased after her. Watching the four disappear into the horizon, Yishuin's face became somewhat anxious. After all, no matter how strong the two of them were, it would be very difficult for them to truly contend against the Celestial Realm elite. Among the Celestial Realm elites present, apart from Yashuang, there was also a male Celestial Realm elite who was tall, and his entire body was azure blue. These were all Celestial Realm elites that Yashuang and Wang Zhenyu usually befriended, and at this time, they all stood out to make things difficult for the Yi clan. Yishuin, where is Brother Zhenyu now? Yu Yashuang looked at Yishuin and asked, her expression unusually cold. Him? He's already dead, Yishuin said with a mischievous smile. Nonsense! Yu Yashuang shouted fiercely. Whether it's nonsense or not, don't you know in your heart? He and I disappeared together, and now he hasn't appeared. Don't tell me you still haven't guessed this result? Yishuin somewhat sneered. Yu Yashuang's face immediately turned pale. How could she not have guessed this result? In fact, basically everyone who knew about this had guessed it, but she still did not give up and wanted to know the final answer from Yishuin's mouth. You actually dare! Yu Yashuang's lips were pale, and she said in disbelief. Chapter 1384. You dare! Yu Yashuang's lips were pale, and she said in disbelief. Her expression quickly became ferocious, and it was abnormally ferocious. His death, Wang Zhenyu's death, had directly impacted her spirit, and she was about to collapse in an instant. But she quickly calmed herself down. Being able to cultivate to the heaven realm, how could her mental cultivation be ordinary? She wouldn't change her expression even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of her. But her gaze became even more vicious, and she stared coldly at Yishuin, wishing she could tear him into pieces. Why wouldn't I dare? Yishuin sneered. You're looking to die. Yu Yashuang made her move instantly. Her white palm shot out, causing the void to collapse. The earth trembled and the mountains to shake. In an instant, the entire void was shaking violently. Fierce and terrifying, her plain white palm was like a palm that could destroy the world, and it slammed down on the spot. Idiot, I already said he's dead. Don't you want to know how he died? Yishuin shouted, and directly pointed out with his finger. Sky-shaking style. Crack, crack! The void in front of him completely shattered under this finger, completely collapsing. This scene was not inferior to Yashuang's attack at all. Boom! Yishuin's finger and Yashuang's palm collided fiercely on the spot. This was a battle at the heaven realm level. The entire sky began to shake violently, and circles of energy storms instantly swept out. Everyone's figures were shrouded in it, and everyone's clothes fluttered in the wind. And at this time, Yashuang screamed, and her figure fell directly out of the energy storm. She stomped a few times, and only stopped after crushing the ground. Yishiwen's finger directly pointed out a huge bloody hole in her palm, and blood sprayed out. The smoke and dust dispersed, and everyone was dumbfounded, feeling that this was unbelievable and extremely shocking. They had seen it for a long time. Yu Yashuang actually fell into a disadvantage in this confrontation, and even suffered a big loss. They were completely dumbfounded, and completely petrified. At this time, everyone recalled Yishiwen's words. He had just called Yu Yashuang stupid. What did he mean by that? So this was what he meant. Stupid, stupid! Yes, how stupid was Yu Yashuang? How could she have escaped if Wang Zhenyu had been killed by Yishiwen? Yu Yashuang screamed in pain, and her gaze became even colder. She was a heaven-tier elite, and she had never suffered such a great loss before. Even when she had been injured by Yi Qianqian before, Yi Qianqian had at most relied on the snow jade sword. However, everyone had clearly seen that Yishiwen had relied on his tyrannical strength to injure her. This was the genuine fighting strength of his opponent. She was about to die from anger. She didn't hesitate at all. Her eyes were extremely cold as she walked towards Yishiwen step by step. Energy surged around her and condensed into a sea. Countless great path laws began to condense around her, and condensed into great path laws that were visible to the naked eye. The true oppressive side of a heaven-tier elite was manifested. She could see that Yishiwen's physical body was invincible, so she simply did not want Yishiwen to fight with his physical body. Instead, she directly chose to crush Yishiwen to death with the great path. That terrifying pressure was crushing down on him, and his bones were creaking under the pressure. It was as if he was on the verge of disintegration. "You're courting death!" Yu Yashuang revealed a somewhat cold smile. This Yishiwen was simply courting death. Heaven-tier elites had a terrifying advantage that was hard to come by for those below the heaven tier. Suddenly, a smile flashed across Yishiwen's face, and he said, "As expected, it's still a bit difficult to contend against the pressure of a heaven-tier elite with just the tyrant body." He didn't use divinity at all just now. Otherwise, this kind of pressure wouldn't be able to have any effect on him at all. If it had been someone else, they would probably have been crushed into a pile of mud. These heaven-tier elites were only a small realm above everyone else, but they were so arrogant and completely looked down on the other geniuses. There was naturally a reason for this. And at this time, divinity crawled all over Yishiwen's face. Suddenly, he was as terrifying as the legendary Golden God. Covered with divinity, that terrifying coercion couldn't affect Yishiwen's body in an instant. Yu Yashuang was almost going crazy. Her pressure was actually unable to do anything to Yishiwen. The scales on her body began to shine brightly, bursting with endless light, illuminating her whole body like a goddess of the sea. Boom! And at this time, a palm directly pierced through this light, and a claw grabbed towards Yu Yashuang's neck. All of this happened too suddenly. Almost in an instant, Yishiwen had already made his move. When Yishiwen's figure appeared in front of Yu Yashuang, the space behind him completely collapsed. The speed of the collapse of the space could not keep up with Yishiwen's speed. He was extremely fast. Behind him, the space shattered, and endless chaos surged. The earth, fire, water, and wind were all about to evolve again. Yu Yashuang was terrified. All of this happened too suddenly, and she didn't expect Yishiwen to directly attack without saying a word. She was immediately unprepared, and Yishiwen directly attacked in front of her. Whoosh! And at this time, the sea race expert next to her directly attacked. He immediately slashed his sword towards Yishiwen's head. If Yishiwen chose to continue attacking, even if he attacked Yu Yashuang, he would probably be cut in half by the sword. But in the face of such an attack, Yishiwen was not afraid at all. His palm continued to move forward, and the sword light that slashed 3 feet away from his body couldn't get closer. Because a cauldron appeared above Yishiwen's head. The sword light only slashed the ancient bronze cauldron, and couldn't get close to Yishiwen's body at all. And at this time, Yu Yashuang finally reacted. Her feet stepped forward, and her figure frantically rushed backwards. Yishuan chased closely, but at this time, the male sea race expert blocked in front of him, staring coldly at Yishuan. Yishuan said nothing. He just raised the ancient cauldron above his head, and directly smashed it down. Buzz! The ancient cauldron let out a long cry, and the sound shook all directions. The sea race expert directly raised his long sword, and the sword shot out. Boom! With a loud clanging sound, the huge sword she was smashed by Yishuan on the spot. And at this time, the 8 treasures heaven and earth cauldron in Yishuan's hand did not slow down, and directly smashed into the sea race heaven realm expert's body. Bang! The sea race heaven realm expert was blasted away on the spot, and his body collapsed on the spot, turning into a cloud of blood mist. Everyone was silent, as if they were dumbfounded as they watched the sea race heaven realm expert being smashed into a cloud of blood mist by Yishuan's cauldron. This kind of terrifying power made everyone exclaim in surprise. What kind of physique did he have? How could even a heaven realm expert not be able to block his cauldron with all his strength? But they couldn't see the terror of this ancient bronze cauldron. Although the attack just now had the credit of Yishuan's tyrant body, to a large extent, it was still because of the terrifying power of the 8 treasures heaven and earth cauldron, as a heaven-level magic tool. You actually killed him? Yu Yashuang was a little ferocious, but also a little confused. Obviously, she had not broken free from the shock of this matter. In the distance came the aftermath of the battle. It was the battle between Yi Shukong and Yi Qianqian and their respective opponents, and it was extremely terrifying. Many people were also a little surprised that these two could really resist the heaven realm experts to such an extent. And Yi Shiwen was even more terrifying, simply treating the heaven realm experts as if they were nothing, smashing them to death on the spot. These people were not ordinary, all of them were the elites of the various clans. Even if they were not as famous as the god's child Yi Shukong and had supreme potential, they were absolutely terrifying. After this battle, perhaps the Yi clan would really be famous in the world. Everyone said that the Yi clan had declined, but now it seemed that they could still produce extremely terrifying experts, and they were all experts of the Yi clan. At least among the younger generation, the Yi clan would have a place. At this time, Yi Shiwen directly formed a sword chi in his hand without any hesitation, and on the spot, a sword light directly broke through the sky, slashing towards Yi Yashuang. Let's see who's going to save you this time, Yi Shiwen sneered. Yu Yashuang seemed to have been stunned, but she was still a heaven realm expert, after all, and directly reached out and slapped down towards the sword light. Ah! She let out another blood-curdling scream as a large hole appeared on her white palm on the spot. All the blood splattered out. Bone fragments flew everywhere. And Yi Shiwen's sword light seemed to be able to burn everything, and its momentum did not decrease, directly slashing towards her face. Enough! At this time, the Ocean Emperor suddenly spoke again. One of the Sea Clan experts had already been killed, and there should not be another. Humph! But there was a cold snort, and Liya directly took action, directly grabbing the big hand that the Ocean Emperor was about to grab Yi Shiwen. Boom! On the spot, it turned into spiritual energy all over the sky, and could not stop Yi Shiwen. Puchi! With a sound, the sword light directly blasted Yu Yashuang's body, unable to stop it. Another heaven realm expert of the Sea Clan had fallen. Dead? Yu Yashuang is really dead? Are my eyes deceiving me? Yu Yashuang has been famous in the world for so many years, and now she actually died in the hands of Yi Shiwen, and in such a stupid way. Didn't she want to ask about Wang Zhenyu's whereabouts? Now she's going down to accompany him, and they can be considered a pair of lovebirds in the same life. Everyone was dumbfounded, but it did not surprise them too much. In the entire void, endless clouds began to condense into the distance. Someone is going through the tribulation. Everyone realized what was going on. Chapter 1385. Everyone came to a realization. That oppressive heaven's retribution. What else could it be if not someone was transcending it? These people did not lack experience in transcending tribulations. Many of them had experienced it many times, and many of them had just transcended the heavens' retribution of the celestial realm not long ago, so they were particularly sensitive to this. Who was transcending the retribution? At this time, many people immediately realized who else could be transcending the retribution at this time. The two Sea Clan experts had already entered the celestial realm, so it was definitely not them who was transcending the retribution. Then, there was only one possibility: either Yi Xiukong or Yi Qianqian was transcending the retribution. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but become excited. But soon, there was no need to guess. Soon, the tribulation clouds of the retribution came from another direction. Both Yi Xiukong and Yi Qianqian were about to transcend the retribution. They were courting death. In the eyes of many, this was indeed no different from courting death. Transcending the retribution in battle, especially when the opponent was a celestial realm expert, was it any different from courting death? But at this time, no one went to check the results. It was too chaotic over there. The aftermath of the battle between top experts and the retribution shielded everything, making it impossible for anyone to get close. Everyone was extremely shocked. The three people from the Yi clan were each more tyrannical and unruly than the last. They simply triggered the retribution in the middle of the battle. This was the rhythm of a life and death struggle. But there were also people who thought that if they succeeded, there would immediately be two celestial realm experts. These two people were already so terrifying before they had entered the celestial realm, not to mention that they had already entered the celestial realm. Then, their strength would immediately have a fundamental leap. Time ticked by as everyone waited. In addition to paying attention to the situation of transcending the retribution over there was also the confrontation between Liya and the Ocean Emperor. Although she said not to interfere, the Ocean Emperor still made a move at the last moment, which made Liya unhappy. Both sides directly confronted each other in the field. Yi Xiwen was not interested in the confrontation in the field, he just kept looking outside, not knowing how the battle between Yi Qianqian and Yi Xiukong was going, but he could imagine that it must be very smooth, otherwise the two of them would not have chosen to detonate the heavenly tribulation for a possible promotion. One had to know that most people would choose a safe and stable place to begin their heavenly tribulation. Only then would they be safe. However, Yi Xiukong and Yi Qianqian actually chose to detonate the heavenly tribulation under such circumstances. This was a choice that they had no other choice. The confrontation between the two experts became more and more intense. This kind of confrontation made people simply not dare to approach. The heavenly tribulation didn't last long. In just over 2 hours, the two heavenly tribulations ended one after another. The terrifying pressure finally disappeared. Whoosh! A ray of sword light flashed across the sky, and a figure leaped out from it. This person was none other than Yi Xiukong. His clothes had long been tattered. Even though he was the son of God, he still looked a little disheveled. However, in terms of spirit, it was a level higher than before. Most importantly, his spirit had undergone a complete transformation. It was as if his entire person was inseparable from the entire void. He had entered the celestial realm. At this time, he directly threw a head in his hand. It was the head of the top expert in the celestial realm who fought with him before. The Sea Clan expert who was majestic just a moment ago had now become a ghost under Yi Xiukong's hands. The result of who won and who lost was already very obvious. Not long after he came back to stop vomiting, Yi Qianqian's figure also came back. Compared to Yi Xiukong, who was a little disheveled, Yi Qianqian was undoubtedly much better. Like Yi Xiukong, Yi Qianqian's body had also undergone a complete transformation, and this transformation was even continuing. After the heavenly tribulation, Yi Qianqian, who had entered the celestial realm, was being transformed by the power of the Great Way. The Yi clan actually won. From Yi Xiwen to Yi Qianqian and Yi Xiukong, they all won. It's simply incredible. When did the Yi clan become so strong? It's simply incredible. Could it be that the Yi clan has obtained some treasured land in these years? Otherwise, how could they produce so many geniuses? At this time, whether it was the human clan or other forces, they had to look at the Yi clan in a different light. As Yishuwen said, the Yi clan had to walk its own path. It was precisely because the Yi clan had fought their way to fame that no one dared to continue to look down on the experts of the Yi clan. Even without the protection of Liya, the Yi clan was as stable as Mount Tai with these experts. Some experts who were still plotting against the Yi clan had all given up at this time. With such experts around, if they continued to plot against the Yi clan, wouldn't they be courting death? You evil thief, this disturbance was caused by you. Go and accompany your Wang clan members. Yi Shukong's expression was cold, and he directly killed Wang Xuanyu with a slash of his sword. However, at this time, no one continued to speak up for him. Everyone who wanted to speak up for the Wang clan had now become ghosts under the sword. How many of them still had the guts to do so? Yi Shukong's strength was originally above his, and now that he had entered the celestial realm, there was a complete generation gap between their strengths. No one could save Wang Xuanyu. The Ocean Emperor glared at the three people from the Yi clan, but he didn't feel bad about not making a move. He had already broken his promise, and it was already embarrassing enough that he failed once. Was he going to continue to embarrass himself? TSK, what an exciting battle! Accompanied by a sigh, a figure appeared in the void. It was a young man who looked like a scholar. At this time, the Ocean Emperor narrowed his eyes and said in an unfriendly tone, "Bai Shaoxing, you've finally appeared!" During this time, everyone knew that the Ocean Emperor only had one purpose in coming to the Wind King planet, and that was to cause trouble for Bai Shaoxing. With his personality, how could he accept that he was only ranked third? He was confident that he could even become the number one. Although in many people's eyes, the Ocean Emperor was undoubtedly not as broad-minded as Fa Wushwang and Yi Wudi, who were ranked second, it was undeniable that his strength was tyrannical, and no one dared to look down on him. At this moment, everyone's gaze fell on Bai Shaoxing. This Bai Shaoxing was very young. In fact, all the members of Bai Shaoxing who were out in the world called themselves Bai Shaoxing, so no one knew what their original names were. Under everyone's gaze, Bai Shaoxing didn't panic at all. He just smiled at everyone and said, "It's definitely an honor for Bai Shaoxing to be able to come here. Bai Shaoxing, now that we've all gathered here, can you announce the new list?" At this time, an expert of the Monster Clan said somewhat impatiently. They wanted to fight for their own ranking, and none of these geniuses were willing to admit defeat. Of course, Bai Shaoxing said with a laugh. As he said that, Bai Shaoxing waved his hand. In the sky, countless golden lights condensed into a glittering list, as if every word on the list was created according to the will of the heavens. The Ocean Emperor's face fell the moment he saw the first place on the list. Because the first place was still given to Fa Wuxiang, who hadn't come at all, and the second place was still Yi Wudi, who was nowhere to be seen. He was still in third place, and the top three had not changed at all. Didn't this mean that he had come for nothing? Not only did he not achieve his original goal, but he had also become a joke. Compared to the original list, except for the top three, there were huge changes in the others. Liya, who was originally only in 7th place, was now in 4th place, second only to the Ocean Emperor. The 5th place was Jing Su, who had come with them but was nowhere to be seen. There were also changes in the others. Yi Qianqian had also rushed to the 23rd place after killing a Celestial Realm expert. Compared to the previous ranking, it was a complete change. Yi Shukong was the same, occupying the 25th place. The biggest difference between this list and the original list was that only the top 10 were confirmed to have stepped into the Heaven Realm. But now, in this new list, even the top 30 had already stepped into the Heaven Realm. It could be said that Bai Shaoxing had only used this list to force many hidden experts to come out. Many people who could have been on the list disappeared, and many new faces were replaced. Among them, the newest one was Yi Shiwen. He was originally not on the list, but now he rushed to the 20th place in one fell swoop. With a cultivation of half-step Celestial Realm, he was actually able to break into the top 30 of the list, which was made up of Celestial Realm experts. It was undoubtedly a complete sensation. Moreover, this list would be announced on the ancient Baron's continent at the same time. In other words, the names on the list would cause a sensation in the shortest amount of time. Bai Shaoxing also said that this list would be the final one. Even if it was changed in the future, it would only be individual people on and off the list. There was no possibility of a large-scale replacement. Therefore, this list was far more reliable than the original one. Bai Shaoxing, you tricked me! The Ocean Emperor roared furiously. Ocean Emperor, I know you're unhappy, but what can you do? You're indeed weaker than the two of them. Bai Shaoxing shrugged indifferently. Nonsense! The Ocean Emperor was instantly enraged. He was so proud, how could he admit that he was weaker than others? The Ocean Emperor's overbearing aura swept out in an instant, heading straight for Bai Shaoxing. A conflict was about to break out. Chapter 1386. The Ocean Emperor's tyrannical aura instantly locked onto Bai Shaoxing. As proud as he was, how could he accept the fact that he was inferior to others? What's the point of looking for me? Go fight the other two if you can. The ranking will naturally change if you win. Bai Shaoxing was completely indifferent to the Ocean Emperor's threat. The Ocean Emperor did not say anything. She immediately restrained her aura. Bai Shaoxing was right. If he wanted to prove that he was stronger than the other two, he would know after fighting them. Everyone began to pay attention to their own ranking, but it was useless even if there were thousands of geniuses. There were only 200 people on the list, and there were only 100 people on the official list. Every name had to go through a lot of competition to be ranked on the list. Among them, the most unexpected yet not surprising thing was Yishuan's ranking. With his strength, everyone could see that it was natural for him to be ranked on the list, but it was still unexpected for him to be ranked so high. Suddenly, a faintly discernible demonic aura began to fill the entire sky. It's demonic aura! Everyone, be careful! Yi Shiwen warned everyone from the Yi clan and Liya in a low voice. He was very sensitive to demonic aura, and he even cultivated demonic arts himself, so he was very clear about it. Not long after Yishuan's reminder, the entire crowd began to stir. These were all tyrannical warriors with profound cultivation. Some of them had even reached the celestial realm. With the unity of heaven and man, they could foresee the existence of danger in advance. Although they still did not know what was going on, their sixth sense had begun to make them vigilant, and a kind of panic was spreading. What the hell is this? Come out! There was a loud shout, and the voice swept out like waves of sound. It was extremely terrifying. Come out! Come out! At this time, the experts of various clans shouted one after another. Although they were only experts of the younger generation, their cultivation was already very profound. They shouted one after another, and each of their voices resonated with the great Tao, dispelling the evil. However, this feeling of uneasiness did not leave with their shouts. On the contrary, this feeling of uneasiness continued to spread. Oh no, the atmosphere of this planet has been locked by a formation. At this time, a celestial realm expert's expression suddenly changed. His complexion was somewhat pale, and he was drenched in cold sweat. I just tried to explore the sky with my divine sense, but it was instantly shattered by the spell formation. At this moment, everyone looked at Bai Shaoxing. Were they the ones who set up this array? At this time, Bai Shaoxing shook his head, indicating that this array had nothing to do with them. His face revealed a worried expression. At this moment, the Ocean Sovereign spoke. Bai Shaoxing, you gathered us here, and now something like this has happened. Don't you think you owe us an explanation? Bai Shaoxing said. For this matter, we have already sent our seniors in the organization. So, everyone, please rest assured. We will definitely handle this matter well. Bai Shaoxing was also a little nervous. What kind of people were here? They were the top experts of the younger generation of the major forces. It was fine if they killed each other, but if they were ambushed because of him, the consequences would be too terrible. Even if Bai Shaoxing had been hiding for many years and had a deep foundation, he still wouldn't be able to bear it. Do you think we can still trust them now? Are we going to wait here foolishly? Why don't we take advantage of the fact that the array hasn't enveloped the entire place and leave quickly? At this time, an expert suggested, and many people immediately agreed. These people would rather try to find a way out by themselves than to sit here and wait for death. The feeling of danger made them feel creepy. Because of their strength, what kind of danger could make them feel so terrible? Many warriors immediately dispersed, but many people chose to stay. At this time, the situation was still unclear. It would be somewhat careless to go there rashly. This included Yi Shiwen, Li, and the others. I feel that the sky has begun to fill with demonic energy. It may be related to the demon race, Yi Shiwen said his speculation. Everyone's expression changed. In fact, they weren't unfamiliar with demonic energy and demon race. In fact, the ancient Baron's continent still had various relics left behind from the invasion of the demon realm. However, these relics couldn't cause any trouble at all. The smaller relics became the training grounds for many geniuses, while the bigger ones were guarded by tyrannical forces. Therefore, even if there were survivors, it was impossible for them to cause any trouble. Now, they actually appeared here. What were they trying to do? Could it be that they wanted to encircle and annihilate the younger generation experts? With the style of the demon race, this was very possible. If they were all killed, the ancient Baron's continent would be cut off for a period of time. No matter what, it's best for us to wait and see. On this Wind King planet, there isn't a safer place than the Bai Xiaoxing's base. The Bai Xiaoxing organization has a deep foundation, and I'm afraid there are many experts among them. I don't think they would dare to abandon us. Otherwise, no matter how strong they are, they won't be able to bear the anger of the entire ancient Baron's continent, said Yi Shiwen. And everyone was convinced by Yi Shiwen's analysis. During this period of time, I'm going into closed-door training. You guys help guard me, said Yi Shiwen. Although that was what he said, he still had an extremely bad feeling. If this was really done by the remnants of the demon race, then they definitely wouldn't just make people nervous for a while. Perhaps there would be even more terrifying follow-up events. Now, the sky was surrounded by the array. With the style of the demon race, they were extremely ruthless. Since they did this, they must have made full preparations. Yi Shiwen had to find a way out for himself. He didn't choose to go into closed-door training to increase his strength. During this period of time, there was a limit to how fast his strength could increase. However, he still had one more thing, which was the heart of the Blood Realm. That was the symbol of the true Blood Realm dominator. Only when Yi Shiwen completely refined the heart of the Blood Realm could he be considered as the Blood Realm dominator. However, the heart of the Blood Realm was extremely mysterious. Even with Yi Shiwen's current strength, there was no way to completely refine the heart of the Blood Realm. However, he was countless times stronger than when he was in the Blood Realm. It was not a problem for him to further refine the heart of the Blood Realm. At that time, he would have the ability to travel through the Blood Realm at will. At that time, even in a very dangerous environment, he would be able to bring everyone back to the Blood Realm to escape. The deeper he refined the heart of the Blood Realm, the more people he could bring with him. Originally, he could only bring himself with him. If he wanted to bring everyone from the Yi clan and the Ya with him, he would have to refine it further. Everyone immediately surrounded him and guarded him. Yi Qianqian and Yi Shukong also needed time to consolidate their strength of the first level of the celestial realm. But in fact, as long as Leah was here, how many people would dare to court death? On this planet, the only ones who could compete with her were Ocean Emperor, Qing Su, and the others. Now that the two of them were not here, and they were in the Bai Xiaoxing's camp, they were naturally safe. Time passed day by day, and many bad news came out from time to time. A powerful celestial realm expert, who could be ranked in the top 30 of the Hidden Dragons list, was killed on the spot by a huge demonic claw when he tried to break through the formation in the sky. That demonic claw was like a pillar that supported the sky. Even from far away, that terrifying scene could still be seen. This news completely shocked the Wind King planet. A tyrannical celestial realm expert was slaughtered. Many people couldn't help but feel danger. Even a celestial realm expert couldn't protect himself, and was killed in just one move, let alone them. For them, this was undoubtedly a great shock. Although they were arrogant and unruly, they were not stupid. They could tell the difference between them. Then, an even more shocking news came out. One of the Bai Shaoxing's camps on the Wind King planet was ambushed and destroyed on the spot. Some of the experts that stayed in the camp and the hidden experts of the Bai Shaoxing were all forced to take action. However, without exception, all of them died tragically. Some brave experts went over to take a look. It was indeed done by the demon race. This characteristic was very obvious. This news instantly shocked everyone on the Wind King planet. To the ancient Baron's continent, the demon realm was an eternal nightmare. Everywhere the demon realm passed by was scorched. It was trying to turn the ancient Baron's continent into a second demon realm. It was a tyrannical existence that required the entire ancient Baron's continent to work together to resist. Although everyone seemed to look down on the demon race on normal days, when it really happened, they were still shocked. At their level, they were already qualified to know many secrets. Naturally, they knew how much they had to pay in order to expel the experts of the demon realm. However, this wasn't the first Bai Shaoxing's camp that was destroyed. Very quickly, the second and third Bai Shaoxing's camps were destroyed. It was as if they came prepared. They directly attacked and destroyed the Bai Shaoxing's camp. Even the hidden experts of the Bai Shaoxing weren't a match for them, and were directly crushed. This news made many Heaven's Pride experts horrified. They returned to their previous places one after another. There were also a lot of people who didn't return. They were afraid that this place would also be destroyed like the other places. It was better for them to stay in the wild. At least, it seemed that these devil experts were mainly targeting the all-knowing cultivator's place. Facing such a situation, everyone had a gloomy feeling in their hearts. Chapter 1387. This kind of atmosphere was suffocating for the crowd. Everyone began to waiting for the latest news, especially Bai Shaoxing. He wanted to give them an explanation. However, this kind of powerless feeling still made these self-proclaimed geniuses feel defeated. When had they ever been in such a sorry state? Many people also began to work hard in retreat. In such an unclear situation, it was best for them to improve their strength as much as possible. Only when their strength was high enough could they deal with all the uncertain factors. However, some people were not worried because they could not contact the outside world, and the outside world could not contact them either. This would instead attract the attention of the major forces. At that time, there should be reinforcements coming soon. But in this regard, Yi Shiwen was even more worried. Because of this, if the devil race really wanted to make a move, it would not be long. Were the devil race not afraid of the masters of the major families coming to help? So there was not much time left for them. During this period, Yi Shukong went out once, but he quickly returned in a sorry state. What happened? What the hell happened? How did it become like this? Everyone asked. There was a big hole in Yi Shukong's chest that pierced through his whole body. Fortunately, he avoided the most dangerous place, otherwise, he would definitely be dead. Even if he was the son of God, there was no difference in this aspect. Yi Shukong's miserable state directly alarmed Yi Shiwen. After using the Phoenix regeneration technique, Yi Shukong's injury quickly healed. Later, Yi Shukong said that he accidentally passed through a forbidden area and was seriously injured by the guards in the forbidden area. The guards in this forbidden area were extremely terrifying vicious beasts. As if they were ordered to guard here, no one could approach. Once they approached, they would be completely attacked. However, Yi Shiwen and the others didn't have much time to think about it. Soon, the forbidden area that Yi Shukong had mentioned suddenly blossomed with endless divine light. More than half of the Wind King planet could see this endless divine light. This quickly attracted the attention of countless experts. Many experts began to become restless. Soon, everyone discovered that even the Bai Shaoxing was rushing towards that forbidden area. Soon, all the experts also followed him. Yi Shiwen and others were no exception, and directly chased after them. When the crowd finally arrived, they realized what kind of place the forbidden area that Yi Shukong had mentioned was. From the outside, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with this forbidden area. However, upon entering it, one would realize that it was a completely different world. Blood flowed like a river, and corpses were piled up like mountains. The corpses that were piled up like small hills were left there, exuding a terrifying aura. Every single one of them was at least half a step into the celestial realm when they were alive, and a large portion of them were even at the celestial realm. That kind of pressure unique to the heaven tier could not be deceived. This aura caused everyone to tremble with fear. Blood flowed like a river, flowing horizontally from the distant end to the unknown distance. The blood contained an astonishing amount of energy, causing people to be unable to look directly at it. The aura of these dead experts has distorted the space here. It's like another world, Yi Shiwen said in surprise. That was why many people didn't discover this forbidden area before, because from the outside, there was no difference. However, the place where these experts were buried actually formed a subspace, completely isolated from the original space. If Yi Shukong hadn't accidentally discovered this place, he probably wouldn't have discovered it. Among them, more than half were experts of the demon race. Yi Shiwen keenly discovered that many of these corpses were actually experts of the demon race. On these skeletons, the aura belonging to the demon race was too strong. Even after countless years, these demon bones could still condense and roar on top of them, as if they were brand new lives. Even if these experts were dead, they were still extremely terrifying existences. Although all that was left of them were skeletons, they could still nurture terrifying things. And in the very center of this forbidden area, a bottomless pit appeared in front of everyone, and above this pit, a huge, seal, character was suppressing the deep pit. At this time, it was blooming with unparalleled colorful rays of light, gushing out in all directions. Who placed the seal? What was under the seal? At this time, everyone had such questions. The key was that this place gave them too much imagination. At any time, they could walk on the ground and kick the bones of a celestial realm expert. Obviously, many experts had an earth-shattering battle in this place, directly leading to the death of so many experts. It was impossible to look straight at it. In front of the seal, an incomparably huge ferocious beast was sitting on top, staring at the crowd with an unfriendly gaze. Even when the ferocious beast was lying down, it was still more than 10 meters tall. Once it stood up, it was like a small mountain swaying. It looked like a huge saber-toothed tiger with 2 huge fangs that could bite any living creature in half. On its body, a series of Taoist runes appeared, directly replacing the original skin. Its body constantly exuded a dangerous aura, firmly locking on everyone. The meaning of warning was very obvious. "Senior, we didn't mean to offend you." At this time, Bai Shaoxing stepped forward and said, "We just want to know what happened to the seal." At this time, this incomparably huge vicious beast opened its mouth and said, "There are a lot of demon bastards outside, so the old thing under the seal is also restless." At this time, this incomparably huge vicious beast opened its mouth and said, its voice buzzing, shaking in all directions, "I don't know how we can help." Bai Shaoxing obviously knew the existence of this vicious beast, and even knew that it was guarding the seal. No need. This vicious beast obviously didn't trust anyone, and it didn't want anyone to come close. Roar. A terrifying roar that seemed to rise from hell swept out from the deep pit, directly colliding with the seal and causing it to tremble slightly. Immediately after that, the word seal burst out with even more terrifying light, directly suppressing this fluctuation. The seal and the thing that was suppressing directly burst out with the most intense collision, and the terrifying aftermath swept out. Many celestial realm experts' bones appeared on the surface of the bones, and the bones that hadn't reached the celestial realm level were swept away, directly turning into flying ash on the spot, directly annihilated. It was simply impossible to withstand this kind of terrifying attack. However, the frequency of the thing below colliding with the seal was increasing, and even the word seal actually began to crack. It was really too terrifying. And at this time, this vicious beast directly condensed a small vicious beast that was condensed from spiritual ether, and then directly flew to the word seal, once again suppressing the fluctuation, and then immediately turned the spiritual ether into energy, and began to repair the cracks on the word seal. Everyone could only watch, not daring to approach. Whether it was the unknown thing that was sealed, or that vicious beast, both were far more terrifying than everyone imagined, and they didn't dare to approach at all. Even Yi Shukong was directly injured by that vicious beast, and was not a match for it at all. Even a celestial realm expert like him was easily injured. One could imagine how terrifying this vicious beast was. And this word, seal, actually vaguely turned into a figure, chanting sutras, pushing back the thing under the word seal, not letting the slightest aura leak out. However, before everyone could react, in the sky, countless formations began to operate frantically, and experts of the Devil Clan descended from the sky, the weakest of which was also a powerful devil half a step into the celestial realm, not to mention the others, among which there were many experts of the celestial realm. Many people suddenly gasped. They didn't expect that the attack of the Devil Clan would actually come like this. At this time, it was really directly colliding at this time, and there was no way to avoid it even if they wanted to. How dare you spy on the forbidden area? This vicious beast that was the size of a small mountain roared to the sky, and a terrifying strength soared straight into the sky. The entire sky immediately collapsed completely, and the terrible chaotic airflow and the power of space shattering directly strangled many devils half a step into the celestial realm into a mist of blood on the spot. Everyone looked sideways. Just a long roar had such power, it was unimaginable. However, these experts of the Devil Clan were like dumplings, jumping down from the formation. The number was very large, tens of thousands, much more than the experts of the various clans. Everyone's expression changed greatly. Even if they were far stronger than the average experts, being surrounded by so many experts of the Devil Clan, wouldn't it be a dead end? Go, we can only fight today. Although I don't know why the Devil Clan has come on such a large scale, we definitely can't let them succeed. At this moment, an apex expert of the demon race spoke. Indeed, no matter what, they had no way to retreat now. Regardless of whether it was the ancient Barons continent's united stance against the demon race or the fact that they had no way to retreat, they had to fight against the demon race with all their might. Only by killing all the demon race would they be able to hold on until the elders of their respective forces arrived. The advantage of being ambushed here was that this horrifying ferocious beast would be a great help to them. This was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise. Demon race or whatever, die for me. The first to attack was the Ocean Emperor. She was like a king in the sky, directly attacking, shattering the heaven and earth, and directly killing a devil half a step into the celestial realm on the spot, without any effort. As soon as she attacked, she displayed the tyrannical strength of the third place on the hidden dragon list, which was not an undeserved reputation. The Devil Clan can gather such a huge force in the Ancient Barons, it can be said that they are planning something big. We must be careful, when the time comes, don't go too far. If the situation changes, leave immediately, Yi Shiwen said. Chapter 1388. Everyone nodded their heads. They could sense that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. The Demon Clan was definitely having a hard time in the Ancient Barons continent. The various clans of the Ancient Barons continent that had been invaded once were like birds that were startled by the mere twang of a bough. Any slight movement of the Demon Clan would cause them to react violently. Hence, once the strength of any Demon Clan gathering place exceeded the limit, it would attract the joint attack of various major forces. Now that such a huge force had gathered without being discovered, one could imagine how deep they were hidden. No one would know that such a power was hidden in the water. But if it were to surface, it would definitely attract the revenge of the major powers of the ancient desolate. Yet they still chose to do so. One could only imagine how extraordinary this was. There must be a consciousness that Yi Shiwen didn't expect. Let's not care about that for now. Killing all the invading demon clan is the right thing to do, Yishuin said. Fellow Taoists, now is the time for us to work together as one, Leah shouted. At this time, hundreds of demon clan walked out of the void in this area. They were tall, and saliva flowed freely between their sharp teeth. Leah took the lead. A white palm slapped out, and it turned into a white jade mountain in the sky. It fell from the sky and directly hit a few half-step celestial realm demon clan members who were the fastest. Boom! These few demon clan members were immediately slapped by this palm. Their physical bodies cracked in midair, turning into a cloud of blood mist. Their souls were destroyed. Seeing how relaxed Leah was, many warriors were greatly motivated. These people were originally the elites and well-known figures of the major forces. They had firm wills, and few of them were mentally weak. At this time, they also rushed towards these demon clan members. Both sides were like two torrents, colliding with each other fiercely. A great demon rushed towards Yishuin. The bat-like wings behind him were constantly flapping, and he directly unleashed his own demon domain. A half-step celestial realm peak late-stage genius couldn't dodge at all. His head was crushed on the spot, and his brain matter flowed out and was absorbed by the great demon. The scene was extremely terrifying, and it made one's hair stand on end. Yishuin felt a chill down his spine when he saw this scene. However, his hands didn't slow down at all. The power of wind and thunder on his body instantly swept out and condensed into a domain. In a one-on-one fight, the role of a domain was not very prominent. However, in a group battle, the role of a domain was naturally incomparably tyrannical. It could protect oneself and completely trap the opponent. All the great experts unleashed their own domains one after another. In such a chaotic battle of numbers, not activating one's domain was tantamount to death. Yishuin's domain of wind and thunder transformed into a sharp sword, and instantly smashed the great demon's domain of devil path. He closed in on the demon, and a heaven-grade scimitar appeared in his hand, and directly chopped down on the spot. Bang! This great demon was hit by Yishuin's scimitar on the spot, and was instantly blasted away. It was unknown how many of its sternum were broken, and it was extremely terrifying. However, what surprised Yishuin was that he couldn't cut this monster in half with one slash. With his current strength, coupled with the heaven-grade scimitar in his hand, even a master of celestial realm first level would be killed by him on the spot. However, he didn't hesitate, and directly chopped out with his scimitar again. This time, this great demon was not so lucky, and it was slashed into a cloud of blood mist on the spot. Yishuin's side was merely a microcosm of the battlefield. The number of these devil experts was inexhaustible. In fact, they outnumbered the experts of various races by a lot. Many experts of various races had become their food in this collision. However, many devils had also exploded on the spot. However, what made everyone rejoice was that although they didn't know who gathered such a huge force and gathered so many demons, there was no doubt that these were all demons from the ancient Baron's continent. Therefore, their strength had always been controlled within a certain limit. The strongest were only a few demons at the second level of Celestial Realm. Generally, most of them were at the first level of Celestial Realm and half-step Celestial Realm late stage. Generally speaking, it was not an existence that was difficult for them to deal with. Moreover, there was still that terrifying beast. Although most of their energy was used to suppress the deep pit, they could still spare some energy to kill those tyrannical experts hidden in the devil army. Although he didn't trust anyone, at this time, he finally understood that no matter what, these experts of various races were also his helpers at this time. Therefore, in order to prevent these experts from collapsing, he still killed those demon experts from time to time. Otherwise, this team formed by various races with ulterior motives would probably collapse on the spot in no time. However, even so, facing the demon army that was several times their number, the experts still had a hard time resisting. If they were not careful, they might be torn apart by the demon army. Although the situation was difficult, in general, they still persevered. At this time, a man in iron clothes appeared in the sky. His whole body was shrouded in a cloud of death aura, and he was sitting on a beheaded beast that was also shrouded in a cloud of death aura. Demon aura and death aura rose to the sky. When his mount began to attack, the entire sky was trembling, as if thousands of horses and soldiers were rushing over. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! 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 Wherever he passed, people and horses were thrown off their feet. The experts of various races who were still resisting collapsed in an instant. Anyone who came into contact with him was sent flying and killed on the spot. Damn it! The ocean monarch let loose a roar as she hurled a punch toward the knight. Many mountains and rivers were completely crumbled by the force of the punch, but the force of the punch had dissipated before it could even land on the knight. The knight stabbed his spear at him. Boom! The ocean emperor hurriedly blocked with his body, but he was still sent flying. Even a trace of blood was seen at the corner of his mouth. It was imaginable how terrifying this spear was. This knight was simply a death knight. He was extremely terrifying. Many people could tell that the dense corpse aura and demon aura were entangled together. It was clearly a corpse, but who was the one controlling it? Humph! At this moment, a cold snort rang out as a figure rushed towards the death knight. He slapped out with his palm, which turned into a gigantic palm. No one knew how big it was, but it slammed onto the death knight's body. Boom! It was another terrifying collision. Boundless chi swept out and shattered the universe. It didn't seem like a battle between mortals at all. After the boundless chi dissipated, everyone could vaguely see that it was an old man in blue. At this moment, he was standing in midair and fighting against the Death Knight. For the first time, the Death Knight's attack was stopped. The Ocean Emperor narrowed his eyes and bit the corner of his mouth, and said, "Peak of the Celestial Realm." Yes, these two experts were at the peak of the Celestial Realm. In terms of strength, they were more than a level higher than everyone else. Many people couldn't help but feel a little lucky. If it wasn't for this old man in blue, they would probably be dead today. Facing a Death Knight at the peak of the Celestial Realm, even if they had a few more lives, they wouldn't be able to kill him. This kind of strength was already at the level of the lords of the major forces. How could they fight against him? Who is this person? Everyone was confused. Who was this old man in blue? Don't panic, everyone. This is a senior of our Bai Shaoxing. At this time, the Bai Shaoxing spoke. Everyone understood, but they secretly remembered in their hearts. With a tyrannical expert at the peak of the Celestial Realm, the Bai Shaoxing, no matter what, could not be regarded as a small team. Although they didn't know how they grew up, such tyrannical strength could not be known for how many years they had accumulated. This was a battle between experts at the peak of the Celestial Realm. The old man in blue was a little thin, and he was holding an iron sword in his hand. This Death Knight was stopped for the first time, and he was forced to continuously retreat. Many people were cheering. At least, with the old man in blue present, they didn't have to worry about the threat of the Death Knight. However, the battle was still going on. These experts of the demon clan would not stop until one of them was dead, and they were determined to break into the forbidden area. In the sky, on the ground, the fiercest battles were everywhere. Corpses directly fell. Although these were the most amazing geniuses, there were too many demons, and even they were dying one after another. This was a terrifying calamity, and it was the same for everyone. Yishuan's entire body was already covered in blood. His eyes were ice cold, and he was incomparably callous. He was constantly killing, and the Tianyuan mirror had absorbed all the devils that he had killed. And at this time, Yishuan was also being watched by someone. It was a top expert of the demon clan, and he was mixed in with many other devils to approach Yishuan's side. Jie, I have also heard some of your reputation during this period of time. Unfortunately, the Bai Shaoxing actually didn't include our demon clan in the hidden dragon list. However, he heard a ridiculing voice, and an astonishing swordlight went straight towards Yishuan's face, and it seemed as if it would behead him on the spot. Yishuan's reaction was also very fast. Although he didn't realize that there was such a hidden expert among these people, But his reaction was absolutely not slow, and the 8 treasures universe cauldron above his head automatically appeared to protect its master. Dang! The sword light directly chopped the 8 treasures universe cauldron above his head, and issued an explosive sound of gold and iron. Chapter 1389. Kill! Battle cries resounded everywhere between heaven and earth. The battle was extremely fierce. Corpses were densely packed in the sky, constantly falling down. In the cruelest battlefield on earth, blood flowed like rivers, and corpses piled up into a mountain. People were fighting madly, bathed in blood. Experts of the demon race and other races were tangled together, and there was a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Although the number of experts of each race was small, fortunately, Amen was more elite, so for a while, there was no sign of collapse. In the sky, the battle between the blue-robed old man and the Death Knight was the most terrifying. No one dared to casually approach within 100 miles of them. On the other side, Bai Shaoxing did not participate in the battle. Instead, he simply watched from the side, seemingly contemplating something. However, a casual attack from him would result in the death of a second layer, and even a third layer sky human stage demon. He was like a stabilizing needle, stabilizing all the bad situations. Everyone who saw Bai Shaoxing's performance couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Bai Shaoxing's strength was far more tyrannical than theirs. In particular, the Ocean Emperor's expression was even more unsightly. Because just now, he was going to trouble Bai Shaoxing. Who knew that Bai Shaoxing's strength was so tyrannical? It seemed that he was at least above the 5th celestial realm. Such strength was enough to hold an important position in any force. If he only appeared as a future successor, such strength was already top-notch. Kiki, brothers, kill them all. These are the elites of each race. Kill them, and sacrifice them for the great cause of our race. At this time, the young expert of the demon race in front of Yi Shiwen roared. There was a somewhat ferocious look on his face, and he gradually reverted to the appearance of the demon race. It turned out to be an Azura, extremely ugly. Everyone knew that among the great Azuras, the men were extremely ugly, while the women were extremely beautiful. There was a very big gap between them. When he turned into a human, his appearance was still acceptable, but when he turned back into an Azura, it was so ugly that it made people want to vomit. Roar! With a roar, he punched out with an aura that could devour the mountains and rivers. The unparalleled fist force distorted the void and shook out. A celestial being of the sea race wanted to sneak an attack on him, but he was killed with a single punch. There was nothing he could do. The battle was getting more and more fierce. At this time, Yi Shiwen finally attacked again. The 8 treasures heaven and earth cauldron directly rose from his body, and he grabbed it in his hand. Overlord lifting mountains and rivers. Boom! The entire void was smashed into pieces by the 8 treasures heaven and earth cauldron. The power of a top-notch heaven-grade celestial device was simply frightening. The great Azure grinned, and a sword light in his hand slashed towards Yi Shiwen. Boom! The iron sword and the 8 treasures heaven and earth cauldron were locked in a stalemate in midair. Terrifying chi waves surged up in an instant, setting off countless smoke and dust. Yi Shiwen remained motionless and allowed the terrifying power to surge into his body. His blood and chi were constantly churning up, just like a tidal wave, crazily sweeping across. In an instant, it was as if a god had come back to life, and his entire body was illuminated in golden light. Both sides were evenly matched. This great Azura looked at Yi Shiwen in astonishment, as if he couldn't believe it. He was a great Azura. In the Devil world, the Azura tribe was one of the best in terms of physical strength. Moreover, the great Azura tribe was one of the best in terms of physical strength. But now, he couldn't even shake Yi Shiwen. This in itself was enough to astonish him. However, he saw that Yi Shiwen didn't give up and rushed forward again. He chased him on the spot and rushed into those devils. He threw the 8 treasures heaven and earth cauldron in his hand, and those devils were smashed into pieces on the spot. They weren't Yi Shiwen's opponents. Damn it! When the great Azura saw Yishuan's killing spree, he was instantly enraged, and directly attacked Yishuan again. He waved the iron sword in his hand and broke the sky. This sword was enough to break a big hole in the sky, but in front of Yishuan, it was nothing. All of Yishuan's figures began to condense. Gilded tyrant form, its power was even stronger than when it was only tyrant form. With a cold snort, the countless sword essences in his hand condensed into a long sword, and slashed down on the spot. Boom! Another terrifying collision occurred. This great Azura screamed and retreated again and again. He let out a muffled snort. His strength had become even more tyrannical than before after he had unleashed his gilded tyrant form. He was extremely shocked. This was simply unimaginable. The Great Azura was also one of the 8 major royal tribes in the Devil World, and their physical strength was even more invincible. Now, he actually suffered a loss in the hands of Yishuan. Roar! He was like a wounded beast, constantly roaring, and his eyes began to turn red. He was extremely angry, and directly rushed towards Yishuan to kill him. In all fairness, this was an extremely terrifying master. Even if the current Yishukong or Yi Qianqian were to fight against him, they would at most be evenly matched. However, he encountered Yishuan. His biggest advantage was his physical strength. Perhaps he would have some advantage if he encountered Yishukong, but this person was Yishuan, and Yishuan's strength was also his physical strength. Yishuan continued to throw punches. Every punch would shatter the void. He was like a hot knife through butter as he killed his way into the midst of those devils. He was like a killing machine, constantly killing, and the devil race had no way to stop his pace. As he killed into the devil race, he chased after this great Azura. It was extremely terrifying, and even many of the devil race next to him were terrified by Yishuan's killing. They had never seen such a brave human, especially his cultivation, which was actually only at the early stage of half-step celestial realm. In this place, it could be said that he was among the group of people with the lowest realm. However, they were constantly retreating. Not to mention the devil race of the half-step celestial realm, even the devil race of the celestial realm was not a match for him at all. They were constantly being blasted back, and even if they were not careful, they would be killed by him. Great Azura clan, one of the 8 major royal tribes of the devil race, I think you are just SOSO. Yishuan said with a sneer, and took a step forward, chasing after him. Go to hell! This master of the Great Azura clan was extremely angry, but he could not do anything, because he could not refute Yishuan at all. He was indeed suppressed by Yishuan, who was at a lower realm than him, and there was nothing he could do. This was simply despairing. And at this time in the sky, a demon emperor began to crazily activate, and a huge demon shadow jumped out from it. An incomparably terrifying aura spread across the entire battlefield in an instant. When seeing this demon shadow, Yishuan was suddenly stunned, because he was too familiar with this demon shadow. Back in the Endless Sea, wasn't this the demon who had escaped from there? Back then, this demon had fought with the ferocious beast artifact spirit and left. Since then, he had disappeared without a trace. Everyone thought that he had returned to the devil world. Who would have thought that he would actually meet this demon again here? It seemed that he had gotten rid of the suppression and pursuit of the fierce beast spirit. His arrival immediately changed the balance between the two sides, and a demon claw trampled down, directly injuring countless masters of various races. Fortunately, his eyes were not locked on the crowd, but locked on the seal, and directly stretched out a demon claw, grabbing towards the seal. Boom! A terrifying explosion sounded, and the demon claw of that demon was directly crushed by a beast claw. It was the fierce beast guarding here that had made a move. Damn demon bastard! As long as I am here for a day, don't even think of taking it away! At this moment, the beast stood up. Like a small mountain, it stood up and faced off against the demon in midair. Then you shall die! At this time, there was a somewhat ferocious look on the face of the demon, whose expression could not be seen clearly, at this time, opened his big hand, and directly took out a pagoda on the spot, suppressing the fierce beast. Boom! The demon subduing pagoda, which was used to suppress this demon, suppressed the body of this fierce beast at this time. Immediately, the fierce beast seemed to be unable to bear the burden, and was directly pressed to the ground. The endless demon light on this demon subduing pagoda began to boil, and actually wanted to strangle this fierce beast into pieces. And this fierce beast was also frantically struggling, excited to break this demon subduing pagoda. Yishuan looked at this scene from afar, and could not help but be shocked, because no one knew the origin of this demon better than him. This demon had undoubtedly escaped from Chaos Demon Sea, and now, what was it looking for? At this time, the great Azura roared and attacked him. Today, none of you will leave, all of you will die. Yishuan was caught off guard, and the punch landed on his body. Although his body wasn't as strong as Yishuan's, even Yishuan felt that his skin was torn and his flesh was lacerated by this punch, and it immediately woke him up. He could not help but roar and roared. You are courting death! Immediately, with a roar, a scimitar appeared in his hand, and slashed down with the scimitar. The whole sky suddenly fell into a sea of fire, disintegrating everything. Boom! This great Azura was slashed away on the spot, and under the burning of the mystical fire, it was instantly burned to ashes, completely unable to stop Yishuan's footsteps. At this time, also began to move, and after suppressing that fierce beast, his demon claws were no longer obstructed, and directly grabbed the word seal. Boom! With a deafening bang, the word seal burst with unparalleled terrifying light, instantly covering the sky. Chapter 1390. It was as if a bomb had been touched by someone, and it instantly exploded. That demon claw was also blown to the point of being drenched in blood. You better give up early, this isn't something you can open. At this time, the suppressed fierce beast couldn't help but roar. Even though it was temporarily suppressed by the demon subduing pagoda, it still didn't show any mercy. Humph, then watch how I subdue him. This yin-yang diagram of life and death, I'm definitely taking it. The demon sneered and began to pinch seals in its hands. One by one, the demon character sprang out of its body and smashed toward the seal character. Boom! 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 A series of loud explosions resounded. Even the originally dazzling seal character began to crack and become unstable. But at this time, without the help of the fierce beast that was constantly repairing it, the cracks on the seal character began to grow bigger and bigger. After killing the great Azura, Yishuan went on a killing spree. These demon experts were no match for him at all. In addition, there were top-notch figures like Leia and the Ocean Emperor leading the way, and by Shaoxing holding the line at the side, so they gradually stabilized their footing. Yishuan killed his way back to the Yi clan. Originally, he was afraid that the great Azura would go on a killing spree, so he was sealed into the demon army so that it would be convenient for him to attack. Anyway, he was never afraid of group battles. Now the situation is getting more and more urgent. I originally thought that the vicious beast would be able to stop the demon, but I didn't expect it to be suppressed. Although it's only temporary, it may not be fatal for those big shots. However, for us, it's enough to kill us, said Yishuan. Wait a minute. Get ready to retreat at any time. Don't worry about anything. When I say charge, follow me, said Yishuan. Okay. Everyone nodded in response. They were all prepared. If the battle really continued to that extent, they had no other choice but to escape. That demon was too terrifying. At the very least, it had probably reached the peak of the heaven tier. Such a character was not someone they could deal with at all. Whether they could escape or not was a problem, because this planet was surrounded by these devils. With the ruthless style of these devils, it was even possible that they would sacrifice this planet. How could they escape? But since Yishuan said so, then he must have his reasons. Hurry up and come out! At this moment, the demon let out a roar. In the depths of the pit, there seemed to be something moving crazily, as though it was trying to break the seal. coupled with the crazy attacks of the demon outside, the entire seal was almost unable to withstand double the pressure. At this time, the beast was about to escape the suppression of the demon's subduing pagoda. At this critical juncture, it all depended on who could succeed first. Boom! With a loud bang, a mushroom cloud slowly rose from the seal. It was a horrifying scene. The seal finally couldn't bear it anymore and suddenly collapsed. Voila! Countless demon aura suddenly boiled, forming a real evil wind that blew crazily in the surroundings. Jia jia. At this time, a sharp laughter came from inside. A wisp of green smoke came out of it. It was another demon, but this demon didn't have a body, only a trace of its origin spirit was left. And above his head, there was a diagram. On this diagram, the yin and yang aura directly turned into two gods, chanting the understanding of yin and yang aura. It was another incredible magic tool. All of you, go to hell. I want this planet to be bathed in blood and rebuild my demon body. The spirit of the demon began to scream crazily. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but change their expressions. They didn't doubt that this demon had such an ability, because it didn't seem difficult for this demon. He could kill everyone and use their flesh and blood to rebuild his lost demon body. Abyssal Demon Lord, I owe you a favor for saving me from this world today. The spirit of the demon said, but he looked at the Abyssal Demon Lord with a greedy look. He actually coveted the body of the Abyssal Demon Lord and wanted to take it for himself. Although this look was only for a moment, it had already aroused the fear of the Abyssal Demon Lord. This old guy really wouldn't shed a tear until he saw the coffin. He had already fallen to this state, but he still dared to scheme against me. If you want to repay me, it's very simple. I heard that your yin-yang life and death diagram is very mysterious. Why don't you take it as compensation? At this time, the Abyssal Demon Lord said with a faint smile. Impossible, this yin-yang life and death diagram is the only instrument I have left. The others have already been destroyed. How can I leave it for you? If even the yin-yang life and death diagram is gone, then what value do I have? The spirit of the demon was not stupid at all. Isn't that right? Without the yin-yang life and death diagram, you are nothing. In the previous war, not only did you not participate, you even stole the yin-yang life and death diagram, directly leading to the complete defeat of my demon race. You are already lucky that I didn't kill you today. I didn't expect you to be so stubborn, then don't blame me for directly taking it. The Abyssal Demon Lord sneered. In his opinion, if the primordial spirit of this demon didn't have the yin-yang diagram of life and death, then what was he? He was just a piece of trash that wasn't worthy of speaking to him. You. The spirit of the demon didn't expect the Abyssal Demon Lord to speak so impolitely. The yin-yang diagram of life and death above his head spun even faster, and a curtain of light hung down, protecting him within. At this moment, everyone was a little dumbfounded as they looked at the internal conflict between the Abyssal Demon Lord and the Demon Lord. They didn't know how it turned out like this. Wasn't the Abyssal Demon Lord here to save the Demon Lord's primordial spirit? You didn't come to save me, the spirit of the demon said at this time. He had been suppressed here for countless years, even his flesh was completely rotten. If it wasn't for the yin-yang life and death diagram suppressing a trace of his spirit, he might have already died. Nonsense, who wants to save a trash like you? The yin-yang life and death diagram has been in your hands for so many years, but you still can't see through the life and death puzzle. In my opinion, you are just a trash. At this time, the Abyssal Demon Lord sneered. In that case, you've been gone for so many years. How is it possible that your body hasn't decayed yet? You. The demon's primordial spirit seemed to have thought of something and immediately became terrified. You've already seen through that step? That's right. The Abyssal Demon Lord didn't hide anything and said with a sneer. How about it? I will give you another chance. As long as you hand over the yin-yang life and death diagram and kneel down to be my dog for the rest of your life, not only can I let you go, but I can also help you rebuild your demon body. How about it? Impossible! You want me to lower my head and be your dog? Don't even think about it. If you force me too much, then at worst, we will die together. If I can't get the yin-yang life and death diagram, then don't even think about it. At this time, the demon suddenly reacted and said. At this time, he had an expression of determination. After all, he was also a demon lord, and his cultivation was once unparalleled in the world. Now that he was asked to be someone else's dog, how could he agree? Then try it. I want to see how much strength you have. The abyssal demon lord was not a person who could be threatened, so he immediately said unyieldingly. In an instant, he directly grabbed over and grabbed the yin-yang life and death diagram. On the yin-yang life and death diagram, a yin god and a yang god began to burst out a terrifying light, and together, they blasted out a profound, blasting towards the huge demon claw. Bang! The yin god and the yang god had jointly blasted out an attack, but it was instantly grabbed by the abyssal demon lord. A disdainful smile appeared on his face, and he said, This yin-yang life and death diagram was famous in the world in the past, but now in your hands, it only has this kind of power. It's really a waste of the yin-yang life and death diagram's name. Don't you feel ashamed? Yin-yang life and death diagram. Suddenly, Yi Qianqian seemed to remember something. I didn't expect that it's actually this instrument, and it hasn't been destroyed yet. It's actually still hiding here, Yi Qianqian said with a frown. At this time, Yi Xuan also finally remembered that it wasn't that he didn't learn anything in the past few years. Yin-yang life and death diagram. Old Yi had also briefly mentioned that this diagram could be called a very terrifying instrument. There used to be a devil god who held the yin-yang life and death diagram, and he was invincible. Many experts of the human race had died tragically in the hands of the yin-yang life and death diagram, but later this yin-yang life and death diagram disappeared, and it didn't appear in the hands of the devil race's experts. In the end, the devil race retreated back to the devil world, and there was no more news about the yin-yang life and death diagram. Yi Xuan didn't expect to see it again here. This matter was top secret, but with the identity and status of these people present, they were absolutely qualified to know about this matter. Even if it was just some hearsay, it was enough to let them have a general understanding of this yin-yang life and death diagram. To sum it up, it could only be described in one word: terrifying. However, under the control of the soul of this devil, it indeed didn't have the invincible power of the rumor. The soul of that devil couldn't help but look ugly when he heard the abyssal demon lord say this about him, but he couldn't do anything because what the abyssal demon lord said was the truth, and he couldn't refute it. However, his complexion immediately became fierce. Even so, whoever wanted to snatch it from his hands must first step over his dead body. Chapter 1391. He was well aware of the wonders of the yin-yang diagram of life and death. For the yin-yang diagram of life and death, he didn't hesitate to betray the demon race and steal the yin-yang diagram of life and death. Although the demon race's subsequent defeat couldn't be said to be because of this, it was undoubtedly a very important reason. Even when he was later found by the experts of the various races and was finally suppressed in this forbidden area, he never regretted it. So what if he didn't have a body? He didn't care at all. He wanted to see through the last step, to see through life and death, to truly walk between life and death, to cut off his own fate, to transcend the 3 realms and the 5 elements, just like those legendary characters. However, he alone couldn't do it. Only with the help of the yin-yang life and death diagram. This diagram contained the mysteries of life and death. If he could comprehend it, he would be able to truly step into the realm of immortality. This was what he cared about the most. Other things didn't matter. Reputation didn't matter, the demon race didn't matter. As long as he could step into the realm of immortality, who would dare to look down on him? Unfortunately, after being sealed here for so many years, even his body had decayed. Although he managed to preserve a strand of his primordial spirit, he couldn't continue to comprehend the mysteries of immortality. In the ocean of immortality, the body was the boat. The stronger and more sturdy the body, the greater the probability of crossing the ocean. But on the other hand, his physical body had completely decayed and turned into ashes after millions of years. Without a physical body, it was like a man on the sea who suddenly sank. It was impossible to swim ashore with his own strength. He could only drown. If it were not for the yin-yang pattern of life and death that protected his primordial spirit, he would have turned into ashes long ago, let alone the rest of his body. Whoever wanted to take away his yin-yang life and death diagram was the same as taking away his life. It wasn't easy to escape, but now he had to face such a terrifying expert. If he knew this would happen, he might as well continue to stay in the seal. Although he would never see the light of day, at least his life wouldn't be in danger. "You don't deserve such a treasure," the abyssal demon lord said with disdain. "I don't deserve it? Do you think you do?" The primordial spirit couldn't help but angrily roar. "Of course." The abyssal demon lord stood with his hands behind his back and sneered at the primordial spirit. "Don't even think about it." At this time, the vicious beast that was being suppressed by the demon suppressing pagoda was also roaring. He was about to break free. On the other side, the expert from Baishaosheng was fighting with the Death Knight at this time. He had no way to get away and had no way to intervene in the battle here. Seeing that the ferocious beast was about to escape, the abyssal demon lord finally lost his patience and threw out a punch. In an instant, his aura devoured the mountains and rivers and shook the surroundings. This punch seemed to be able to shatter the entire sky. In his fist, he used the fist will to crush everyone. He had already reached an extremely terrifying realm. Bang! The primordial spirit of the demon was blasted away on the spot. At this time, he glared at the Abyss Demon Lord and roared. "Abyss, do you really want to force me into a dead end? So what if I force you into a dead end? If a trash like you dies, then so be it. I'll just devour you to replenish my origin spirit." The Abyssal Demon Lord didn't care at all. "You forced me to do this, bastard!" He let out a terrifying roar. His eyes were filled with a crazy look. At this time, he looked at the Abyss Demon Lord in a crazed manner. It seemed like he wanted to devour the Abyss Demon Lord directly. And at this time, a tyrannical power began to boil in his body. He was forced to this point by the Abyss Demon Lord. He had almost lost all hope. At this time, he seemed to have gone crazy. "Since I can't get it, and you still want to kill me, then let's perish together." "No one will get it!" the primordial spirit of the Demon Lord roared. "You dare!" At this time, the Abyss Demon Lord opened his eyes wide. He didn't expect that the primordial spirit of this Demon Lord would actually dare to do this. He actually dared to perish together. "Why wouldn't I dare? Ha ha ha, Abyss, you are too smart. But so what? You didn't expect that I would have such a move. Indeed, my courage is not very big. But if someone wants to snatch my things, then I won't let you go. Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go." He roared angrily as if he was saying his last words. "Become a ghost? I wasn't afraid of you when you were alive, let alone when you're dead," the Abyss Demon Lord said indifferently. But his big hand once again grabbed toward the yin-yang pattern of life and death. Boom! The primordial spirit of that Demon Lord finally exploded with a loud sound in front of everyone's eyes. Although he was only a wisp of primordial spirit, he was, after all, a former Demon Lord. Such a tyrannical expert protecting himself, the power could be imagined. The entire forbidden area turned into nothingness in an instant. Countless corpses that had existed for countless years also turned into ashes in an instant. And the evil spirits that were born in them were also wiped out in an instant. This power was really terrifying. He really didn't care about the flood that would overflow the sky after I die. The terrifying shock waves swept out in circles. Some experts who were half a step into the celestial being realm, whether it was the allied forces of various races or the demon race, couldn't resist and were sent flying. Even those experts at the celestial being realm were shaken to the point that they bled from all orifices. This was because of the extremely terrifying power of the exchange between the two sides just now. So, no one dared to casually approach and had already retreated far away. Otherwise, even the experts of the celestial being realm would only be suppressed to death. Yishuan only felt a huge energy tornado blowing directly towards him. His clothes were fluttering in the wind. The divinity in his body automatically protected its master. However, that terrifying energy tornado blew his clothes and made a fluttering sound. The sand and stones under his feet weren't blown away. Instead, they were annihilated in an instant. The ground was flattened by a layer. Such a terrifying power made everyone's faces turn pale one after another. And under such terrifying power, the palm of that demon lord was also shaken off, and blood was dripping. "Bastard, damn it, damn it!" The abyss demon lord roared like a wounded beast. It was very terrifying. At this time, he covered his arm, but there was no way to do anything. He could only roar ferociously. Soon, the arm on his hand automatically fell off, and then a new arm grew out. Such a cultivation could be said to be extremely powerful, and it was definitely enough to scare people to death. And on the other side, the suppressed vicious beast was actually fine, because the demon subduing pagoda helped him block most of the power, and the demon subduing pagoda was sent flying by this terrifying power, just in time to let him escape. "Damn demon lord, die for me!" He looked up to the sky and roared, and a powerful airwave instantly swept out. And just as this terrifying shock wave just passed, two streamers directly rushed out from the energy storm. It was the yin-yang life and death diagram, but at this time, the yin-yang life and death diagram actually broke into two parts, one big and one small. The big part occupied 2/3 of the diagram, and it flew in the direction of the abyss demon lord, and just happened to be in his hands. Ha ha, in the end, it still fell into my hands. But he soon discovered that this yin-yang life and death diagram was only a mere 2/3, and the part that belonged to life was missing more than half, and the part that belonged to death was also missing a small part. He immediately looked at the other streamer, and sure enough, it was the other half of the yin-yang life and death diagram. But the other half of the yin-yang life and death diagram was too fast, and it almost instantly passed through the crowd, and blasted into the body of a human warrior. Puff! Yishuan only felt that a streamer of light directly rushed into his body at lightning speed. His body was suddenly like a cannonball, and was sent flying hundreds of miles away. His body streaked across the vast sky, and issued a sharp whistling sound. Boom! His body smashed through a primordial divine mountain before he finally came to a stop. He felt as if his entire body was about to collapse. And the most terrifying thing was that he felt that in his body, a terrifying force of life and death appeared, alternating with each other, tearing his body apart. Even with the strength of his tyrant body at this time, it was like a piece of paper that was torn apart casually, and then healed again. This kind of terrifying feeling was playing out every moment, and it even made a person with a strong will faintly feel that his back was instantly soaked in cold sweat. He couldn't help but gasp, and he almost fainted. In addition, he was directly hit by the streamer just now, and then directly vomited a mouthful of blood, and he was not far from fainting. Damn, this is really an undeserved disaster. This was also thanks to the infinite power of his tyrant body. If it were an ordinary person, just the terrifying impact of this streamer alone was enough to directly kill him, and then directly send him flying. Yishuan wasn't the first person to be hit by the remnant of the yin-yang life and death diagram. The people in front of him were directly turned into a mass of blood fog on the spot. Whether it was the devil race or the experts of various races, they would all meet the same fate if they were to bump into this remnant of yin-yang life and death diagram. Therefore, a large mass of blood fog was set off wherever he went. Only Yishuan was not directly hit into a cloud of blood mist, but directly sent flying. The yin-yang life and death diagram fragment directly rushed into his body, which was already shocking enough. This situation was absolutely unexpected. Not only did Yishuan not expect it, Even Yi Qianqian, Yi Shukong, and the others did not expect it at all. The scene was silent, and after a long time, they finally reacted to what had happened. Yi Shiwen. At this time, everyone from the Yi family flew in the direction of Yi Shiwen, and behind them, there was a terrifying demon claw directly grabbing. Chapter 1392. At this time, everyone from the Yi clan flew in Yi Shiwen's direction, and behind them, there was a terrifying demonic claw directly grabbing at them. Wherever this demonic claw passed, all the experts from the demon clan and other clans collapsed and were directly grabbed into blood mist. However, this demonic claw did not slow down. The direction it was heading towards was none other than Yi Shiwen's direction. The target was also very clear. It was the Yin-Yang life and death diagram fragment in Yi Shiwen's body. At this time, Yi Shiwen also saw the demonic claw grabbing at him. He wanted to struggle to move, but there was no way. His whole body seemed to fall apart, and there was a crazy tug-of-war between the life force and the death force in his body. One was destroying, and the other was repairing. But there was no other way at this time. He immediately shouted, and a blood-colored light flashed in his hand. In the sky, a blood-colored gate appeared. Blood World! At this time, some Sea Clan experts recognized it. Isn't this the entrance and gate of the Blood World? They would not mistake the familiar aura of the Blood World. In fact, almost all of these Sea Clan experts had experience in the Blood World. It was just that they did not expect the gate of the Blood World to appear here. At this time, Yi Shiwen roared, "Let's go!" As he said, his body took the lead and directly rushed into the Blood World. Yi Qianqian, Yi Shukong, and the others hesitated for a moment, but they also followed in almost instantly. They remembered what Yi Shiwen had said just now. Originally, it was just a precaution, but now it had become a real matter. And the demonic claw almost instantly followed in, grabbing at Yi Shiwen. Bang! Yi Shiwen was slapped on the spot, and his body was slapped out again like a cannonball. His body was almost disintegrated in the void, and blood splattered everywhere. Boom! His body directly hit a cliff, directly smashing a big hole in the cliff, and countless rocks instantly turned into powder. Close! Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth and roared. Immediately after, the gate of the Blood World began to close, but when it closed to the demonic claw, it was stuck here. At this moment, thunder rumbled within the Blood World as the minor heavens Tao within the Blood World began to operate. The gates of the Blood World closed up instantly, leaving the demonic claw within the Blood World. Seeing this scene, Yi Shiwen finally felt relieved. He closed his eyes and fainted. Yi Shiwen didn't know how much time had passed. It seemed as if a day had passed, but it also seemed as if dozens of years had passed, or even hundreds of years had passed. Yi Shiwen finally woke up. Groaning, he opened his eyes and saw a beautiful face in front of him. It was none other than Yi Qianqian. Yi Shiwen, are you all right? Yi Qianqian was pleasantly surprised to see that Yi Shiwen had woken up. There was a pleasantly surprised look on her pretty face. I'm fine. Yi Shiwen turned his head with difficulty and looked around. He found himself in a cave. He couldn't help but feel relieved in his heart. He was really lucky this time. He had almost been killed by that claw. Being ambushed twice in succession, this was really an unexpected calamity. The situation had become so serious that he had actually fainted. How serious was this? Because it must be known that the reason why people would faint under normal circumstances was because of the self-protection factor. When someone complained about a serious injury or a huge mental blow, they would automatically faint. In this way, they would not die from the pain. But this definitely did not include him. He often fought until the last moment in battles. Even when he was seriously injured, he had never retreated. Fainting was a very incredible thing for him now. Because he had cultivated to such a level, even if it seemed to be impossible for ordinary people to control the subconscious, he could also control it. Therefore, under normal circumstances, it was impossible for him to faint. It was also impossible for him to let himself faint because fainting meant that he had no consciousness. That way, he would be entrusting his own safety to others. This was absolutely not something he would allow. But now it still happened. One could imagine how serious the injury was this time. At that moment, it was an unexpected calamity. He was almost killed by this yin-yang life and death diagram. In all honesty, this time he did not covet the yin-yang life and death diagram at all. Because the few people involved in this yin-yang life and death diagram, any one of them could casually crush him to death without any effort at all. But now, this yin-yang diagram of life and death had fallen into his hands. It was definitely God's will. Because he didn't covet it, he didn't make any preparations. That was why he ended up in such a miserable state, and almost died. This time, it was definitely not a good thing for him because the life and death power of the yin-yang life and death diagram was frantically destroying and rebuilding his body. Because now that the yin-yang life and death diagram was broken, the yin and yang power in it lost its restraint and completely broke this balance. Without balance in his body, it began to sweep wildly. If a fortune teller were to read Yishuan's fortune now, he would be completely dumbfounded. Because Yishuan's face would be dark and full of death energy for a while, and then he would be full of life and full of vitality. However, the only thing worth rejoicing was that in this yin-yang life and death diagram fragment, there was more life power. If there was more death power, he would probably be dead at this time. This was definitely a terrifying martial instrument. Even such a small fragment of the diagram was about to make Yishuan completely collapse. However, even if the life power had the upper hand, it could not go on like this. Otherwise, his body would collapse sooner or later. At this time, the ancient god scripture, the Mingxin ancient tree, the word fighting, and the mysterious space in his body began to suppress this yin-yang life and death diagram. Now he could only barely maintain the balance, but there was no other way. In other words, most of his power had disappeared at once to suppress the yin-yang life and death diagram. This decline was not just a little bit. Originally, his strength was far stronger than Yi Qianqian and Yi Xiukom, but now he was only on par with the two of them. But now there was no other way. He could only forcibly suppress it, and wait until he returned to the Yi family. "How many days have I been unconscious?" asked Yishuan. 3 months, said Yi Qianqian. "So long?" Yishuan couldn't help but be a little stunned. "Now that the yin-yang diagram of life and death is in your body, we thought you wouldn't be able to hold on a few times. Then, after hearing a phoenix cry, your body actually began to slowly recover," Yi Qianqian said. Yishuan understood that it should be the phoenix regeneration technique in his body. In this case, it should be automatically protecting the owner. He just couldn't help but be a little depressed. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. He was almost killed by this yin-yang life and death diagram fragment. He didn't have the slightest feeling of obtaining a treasure. Firstly, this yin-yang life and death diagram was only a fragment. Secondly, even if he obtained it, he must be able to subdue it. In this state, it was impossible to subdue it. It couldn't be used at all. It meant that not only was it useless, but it also became a disadvantage. Thinking of this, he was a little depressed. "Now I'm fine. Let's go out first." "I don't know how noisy it is outside now," said Yishuan. It had already been a full 3 months, and the matter on the Wind King planet should have come to an end by now. They had lost so many experts, and they had personally witnessed the revival of the demon race. Who knew what the outside world would be arguing about? And Yi Qianqian nodded. This was indeed the case. They also wanted to know, but the heart of the blood realm was in the hands of Yishuan. Without Yishuan, they couldn't go out at all. "By the way, the demon claw that stretched in before was directly cut off by the world gate. Do you want to go and see?" asked Yi Qianqian. "Okay." Yishuan didn't hesitate immediately and followed Yi Qianqian out. On a plain not far away, a huge demon claw that was tens of meters long was lying quietly on the plain, slowly exuding demon aura. It was trying to transform the blood realm into the demon realm. Just looking at this demon claw, one could imagine how terrifying the Abyss Demon Lord was. It was just that he suffered a loss in the hands of Yishiwen, and it was a big loss. Thinking about it, he was about to explode. At this time, Yishiukong, Wu Pingjiu, Huai, and the others were guarding this demon claw. Because this demon claw was bleeding, it attracted many blood fiends in the blood realm. Among them, there were even some existences at the 9th level of the law manifestation realm. At this time, all of them were attracted, but they were completely expelled by the three. Seeing that Yishiwen was fine, the three of them couldn't help but reveal a pleasantly surprised expression. They had to rely on Yishiwen to leave this place. If it wasn't for Yishiwen, then wouldn't they be locked up in this place forever? Now that they saw that Yishiwen was fine, they breathed a sigh of relief. Yishiwen didn't hesitate, and directly put the Devil's Claw into Tianyuan Mirror. This Devil's Claw was also a rare heavenly material and earthly treasure. Moreover, it was very precious and could be directly refined into a magic weapon. Let's go out! Yishiwen didn't say much about this blood realm. Yishiukong and the others didn't ask much either. Everyone had their own secrets, and it was impossible to reveal all of them. This time, they were able to escape this disaster. Without a doubt, it was all thanks to Yishiwen. Although the blood world was a little mysterious, they didn't ask too much about it. At this time, the outside world was also completely in chaos because of this time's matter with the Wind King planet. Chapter 1393. During the 3 months that Yishiwen was in a coma, the ancient Baron's continent had been in chaos because of this matter. When Yishiwen came out, he found out that the trip to the Wind King planet had caused all the major forces to suffer heavy losses. Among the thousands of elite geniuses, not even half of them survived. Although it seemed like only half of them were lost, and there were only a few hundred of them, these few hundred of them were the elites among the elites of the younger generation of the major forces. Especially at the end, when the Abyss Devil King went berserk and slaughtered wantonly, the loss of these younger generation experts was caused by the Abyss Devil King's berserk behavior. When this news spread to the outside world, it unsurprisingly caused an uproar. Every one of these young experts was a treasure. God knows how many resources were spent to nurture them. Now, more than half of them had died in one go. When the major forces received this news, they were so distressed that they twitched. How many resources and experiences were needed to nurture these experts? Now, all of them were lost in one go. Such a huge loss made people's teeth ache. Because of this matter, the 100 Knowing Xing was also under a lot of pressure. A group of forces that didn't know where to vent their anger vented their anger on the 100 Knowing Xing. If the 100 Knowing Xing didn't make this list, how could things end up like this? Facing this pressure, the 100 Knowing Xing was very tough. No one wanted the sudden appearance of the demon race, and no one could avoid it. Therefore, they would continue to publish the Hidden Dragon List, Soaring Dragon List, and Phonian List. This was the foundation of the 100 Knowing Xing, and it was also the reason why they could stand out among the various forces. How could they give up on it? Facing the illusory 100 Knowing Xing, who didn't even know where his base was, although the major forces were furious, they couldn't do anything to him. Some people guessed that the 100 Knowing Xing's base was in the depths of the starry sky, in a place that no one knew. Because in the current ancient barons, it was impossible for such a huge unknown force to exist. It could only be in another subspace, or in the depths of the starry sky. Only then would it be possible. Moreover, just like what the 100 Knowing Xing said, the appearance of the demon race was completely unexpected. No one knew that the demon race would suddenly appear, and such a huge war would break out. Moreover, if it weren't for Bai Xiaoxing's experts' protection, the number of casualties would have been far more than this number. This matter had completely awakened all the major forces. There was actually such a huge force of the demon race. Most importantly, they actually didn't know about it. If it wasn't for this coincidental encounter, They probably wouldn't know that the demon race had actually organized such a huge force unknowingly. If they couldn't figure it out in advance, it was very likely that these devils would give them a ruthless blow at a critical moment in the future. At that time, it wouldn't be these young experts who would suffer heavy casualties. Facing the devil race, this terrifying opponent, no matter how careful everyone was, it was never too much. Although the demon plane's invasion had happened a long time ago, the destruction caused by the invasion was still fresh in everyone's minds. The ancient records of the various great forces had records of the invasion. Thus, no one dared to look down on the demon plane. Not to mention, there were so many demon plane cultivators there. There were even some at the peak of the sky human stage amongst them. This matter had directly alarmed the higher-ups of the various great forces. To them, the demon race could exist on the ancient Baron's continent, but it had to be within a controllable range. It was just like rearing venomous insects. If it exceeded the controllable range, it would be completely annihilated. Thus, almost immediately, the various great forces sent out a large number of experts to investigate the matter of this demon plane cultivator. They had to investigate this matter thoroughly. Regarding this matter, Bai Shaoxing, who felt that he had been tricked, finally exerted his strength. He wanted to take revenge on the demon race, and he had also provided a lot of information. With Bai Shaoxing's hidden information network, he quickly found out the location of this wave of demon plane cultivators. It was also on a planet in the depths of the starry sky. On the ancient Baron's continent, the 4 major clans occupied almost all the space and had cleanly divided their territory. However, in the depths of the starry sky, there were many places that weren't under their jurisdiction, and there were places where forces could move freely. Apart from the demon race, the matter regarding the yin-yang life and death illustration had also become the focus of the various great forces. No one had expected that the yin-yang life and death illustration would actually be sealed on the Wind King planet. If they knew about it earlier, the Wind King planet would have been turned upside down long ago. Regarding the yin-yang life and death illustration, they were very clear about what it meant. There was once a demon god who held the yin-yang life and death illustration, and he was invincible. In other words, it might be a divine tool. Any force that obtained it would undoubtedly have a huge increase in their strength. More than half of it was obtained by the Abyss Demon Master, while the other half was obtained by Yi Shiwen with their own eyes. And Yi Shiwen had obviously become the target of public criticism. Many people came to him aggressively, demanding for Yi Shiwen to take responsibility. If Yi Shiwen hadn't taken away the yin-yang life and death illustration, the Abyss Demon Master wouldn't have suddenly gone crazy, and their disciples wouldn't have suffered such heavy losses. Yi Shiwen had to take responsibility for this. Among them, the Wang family was even more furious. The experts of the younger generation of the Wang family had all died at the hands of the Yi family, and the only celestial realm expert among them, Wang Jinyu, had even died at Yi Shiwen's hands. How could this not make them furious? Practically the instant they received this news, they had already gone to the Yi family, demanding for an explanation. With the Wang family taking the lead, many forces had also sent out experts, demanding for an explanation from the Yi family. The situation had begun to change, and Yi Shiwen had undoubtedly become the target of public criticism, the focus of everyone's attention. But because Yi Shiwen hadn't returned, although these forces were aggressive, they were still relatively quiet. But with the return of Yi Shiwen's group, these people were immediately seething, demanding for an explanation from the Yi family. And at this time, the Yi family also called for a meeting because of this matter. Apart from the Yi family patriarch, Yi Tianxiong, there were also many elders and some old antiques who were about to pass away, living fossils. Only the top figures of the Yi family could participate, for no other reason than that this matter had attracted many forces to join forces to cause trouble. For the Yi family, this was also a rather troublesome matter, and they couldn't turn a blind eye to it. In another secret plane of the Yi family, a throne rose from the ground, and those who could sit on it, without exception, were the top experts of the Yi family. Any one of them was a terrifying existence that could be called a celestial realm expert. The Yi family patriarch, Yi Tianxiong, sat on the highest throne and looked down at everyone, saying, "This time, Yi Shiwen obtained the yin-yang diagram of life and death in the Wind King planet. This was the privilege of the Yi family patriarch. It was supreme, and in the Yi family, no one could be above the patriarch. Well, we also heard, how can we not know? The representatives of those forces have to repeat it almost every day, as if they're afraid that we don't know." At this time, an elder said, inevitably a disdainful sneer at the corner of his mouth, "This Yi Shiwen is indeed audacious enough." The Wang clan was completely annihilated this time. To a large extent, it was because of Yi Shiwen. His ruthlessness is not something that an ordinary person can do. At this time, another celestial realm elder said, "No wonder the Wang family is so furious this time." "I don't like what you're saying." "What do you mean by no wonder the Wang family is so furious?" This time, it's very obvious that the Wang family is in the wrong. If they hadn't attacked our Yi family first, would things have turned out like this? At this time, Yi Zhentian, who was sitting on the throne, said with dissatisfaction, "Yi Shiwen was his last disciple, and at this time, he naturally had to support his last disciple. Could it be that the disciples of the Wang family are so precious, and the disciples of the Yi family are all grass? Can they die at will? I think this time, Yi Shiwen and the others did a good job, ruthlessly killing their prestige. Although we are in the right, is the Wang clan a reasonable person? This time, they suffered such a big loss, and even Wang Zhenyu, who they had high hopes for, died tragically in the hands of Yi Shiwen. If I were them, I'm afraid I wouldn't let it go so easily." At this time, a gloomy voice came over. It was none other than Yi Xing's father, Yi Qian. The hatred between Yi Qian and Yi Shiwen could be said to be as deep as the sea of blood. This hatred was absolutely irreconcilable. He had painstakingly cultivated his successor, but in the end, he died in the hands of Yi Shiwen. However, he had no way to take revenge because he had no evidence, so he could only watch his enemy get away with it. The resentment in his heart could be imagined. Now that there was finally a chance to take revenge, how could he let go of such a good opportunity? "What do you mean by if you were them? You are a member of the Yi family. Do you need to care about what they think?" Yi Zhentian sneered disdainfully and said, "If it weren't for Yi Shiwen, Yi Qianqian and the others who turned the tide this time, at this time, it would not be the Wang family who would fly into a rage, but our Yi family. I would rather let the Wang family bleed than let us be killed because of fear. Otherwise, who would dare to work for the Yi family in the future?" At this time, many elders also nodded one after another. This reason was right. Although the anger of the Wang family was not easy to deal with, they could not say that they did not want to deal with the anger of the Wang family, and let the Yi family kill at will. Otherwise, where would the dignity of the Yi family be? Moreover, the number of Yi family experts killed by the Wang family was not small. Why did they come to investigate at this time? Chapter 1394. On the Wind King planet, life and death were determined by fate, and wealth and honor were determined by the heavens. The major powers had a tacit understanding on such matters. If it wasn't for this, just based on this reason alone, they would have already started fighting hundreds of times. Moreover, it was the Wang family who came to the Wind King star first. Many people could prove that the Yi family had no reason to retreat. If this matter did not involve many powerful forces, if it was only the Wang family who came to the Wind King Star clan aggressively, the Yi family would definitely close the door and let the dogs go. They would know why the flowers were so red. That's right. I agree with Yi Zhentian. Yi Shiwen did not do anything wrong. On the contrary, he has done meritorious deeds. We must show our appreciation to those who have done meritorious deeds. Yes, yes. At this time, most of the elders were inclined to Yi Zhentian's view. A few of the more radical ones had already shouted to give Yi Shiwen a reward. How could this be considered a mistake? He had saved all the masters of the Yi family. This was definitely a meritorious deed. On the side, Yi Qian was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Not only did he fail to bring Yi Shiwen down, but he also had to be rewarded. This kind of feeling made his chest heave up. He felt like he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. He was as depressed as he could be. Since everyone has made a decision on this matter, let's do it this way. This time, Yi Shiwen has saved so many geniuses of the Yi family. We will be fair to those who have done meritorious deeds. At this time, the master of the Yi family said. And everyone should be very clear that the Wang family also has ulterior motives. Yi Tianqiang said faintly. They also came for the yin-yang life and death diagram. Compared to the yin-yang life and death diagram, the death of these geniuses of the Wang family is nothing. Everyone nodded. They also knew very well that the Wang family and the other forces had ulterior motives. They were simply here for the yin-yang diagram of life and death. As for the casualties and the like, it was simply a joke. I think we should make Yi Shiwen hand over the yin-yang life and death diagram. Only by handing it over to us can we truly avoid the problem. Yi Qian said again. No, I don't think this is appropriate. Everyone knows the rules of the Yi family. Who doesn't have a secret? Who doesn't have a fortuitous encounter? If we hand them over like this, everyone will be anxious. This is not in line with the long-term strategy. As soon as Yi Qian opened his mouth, Yi Zhentian immediately retorted, causing Yi Qian to glare at Yi Zhentian angrily. However, Yi Zhentian didn't care at all. Moreover, Yi Shiwen has only been cultivating for such a short period of time, yet he already has such a cultivation and skill. If you ask such a person to hand over the yin-yang life and death diagram, wouldn't that force him out of our Yi family? Do you think this is appropriate? I think you've gone senile. Everyone nodded one after another. They couldn't wait to treasure such a genius. How could they drive Yi Shiwen out of the Yi family? This was simply illogical and not harmonious at all. Who didn't have a secret? Who didn't have a fortuitous encounter? Even in their lifetime, there were many secrets and fortuitous encounters. If the ancestors insisted that they hand over the yin-yang life and death diagram, perhaps they would have already rebelled against the Yi family. This proves that he is simply a traitor. We should get rid of such a person as soon as possible. Yi Qian suddenly said in a sinister manner. I think you simply can't distinguish right from wrong. Yi Zhentian suddenly became furious and opened his mouth to criticize. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? You're still thinking about that useless son of yours. Humph, let me tell you, even if your useless son doesn't die, I will still catch him. Not only does he not love his fellow disciples, he even resorts to underhanded means several times. Our Yi family can't afford to accept such a person. You! Yi Qian was dumbfounded and speechless. He was very clear about his son's character. This kind of matter simply couldn't stand up to an investigation. If this matter was really found out, let alone Yi Xing, even he, the father, would be implicated. And it just so happened that Yi Zhentian was in charge of the law enforcement hall. This was one of the two major intelligence agencies of the Yi family. If they really wanted to investigate, Yi Xing would certainly not stand up to it. What I mean is very simple. Yi Shiwen has made a great contribution to the Yi family. He should be rewarded and shouldn't be blamed. Let's not talk about whether this matter is right or wrong. There is a saying that the victor doesn't need to be blamed. I think everyone should be very clear about this. Yi Zhentian said bluntly. As for the matter of the yin-yang life and death diagram, Yi Shiwen only obtained one of the map fragments. Isn't there another one? If they really want it, then go and take it. If they have the ability, then go and find trouble with the Abyss Devil Lord. Don't think that our Yi family is a soft persimmon that can be bullied at will. Yi Zhentian's words resonated with many people of the Yi family. Yes, their Yi family had already fallen to such a point. Even the children of their Yi family couldn't protect one of them? If this was really the case, then what was the need and purpose of their existence? But don't forget that now all the major forces have come forward to put pressure on us. The pressure on our side is also very great. Moreover, that Yi Shiwen is also a troublemaker. It has only been a few years since he returned to the Yi family, but he has already caused so many troubles. Each one is bigger than the previous one. For our Yi family, I think such a person is a scourge and should be dealt with as soon as possible. Not everyone agreed with Yi Jintian. In fact, there was a considerable number of people who didn't agree with Yi Jintian at all. On the contrary, they felt that his remarks were too extreme. I think this is just jealousy. As the saying goes, those who don't provoke jealousy are mediocre. This just proves Yi Xuan's talent. At this time, Yi Jintian was like a hen protecting its chicks. These are not the main points. The main point is the yin-yang life and death diagram. Yi Xuan has enjoyed so many benefits from our Yi family. So, it is not too much to hand over the yin-yang life and death diagram. At this time, Yi Qian continued. Yi Qian, what kind of nonsense is this? You have also received a lot of benefits from our Yi family. Why don't you contribute your fortuitous encounters to us? Yi Jintian disdainfully retorted and said with a sneer. Yi Qian's complexion suddenly turned red. However, there was nothing he could do. Who asked his son to be so disappointing? It was precisely because of Yi Xing's disappointment that he couldn't say anything even if he wanted to. Many people were drooling over the yin-yang life and death diagram. Not only the masters of other forces, but also many people in the Yi family were also drooling over this matter. There were many people present at the scene, and Yi Qian was definitely not the only one. However, they were very worried about Yi Jintian's tiandu. Everyone knew that Yi Jintian controlled the law enforcement hall. He was impartial and incorruptible. If they wanted to make a move on Yi Xuan, they would definitely have to go through Yi Jintian. Otherwise, there was no other way. However, more people agreed with Yi Jintian's statement. Although many people knew that the yin-yang life and death diagram was very important, it was just a fragment of the diagram. Moreover, it was only a fragment of the diagram. Moreover, they would challenge the rules that the Yi family had established for many years just for this yin-yang life and death diagram. It would definitely cause panic and dissension. What did the Yi family rely on to stand tall in the ancient Baron's continent for so many years? Geniuses? Masters? No, the real foundation was order. An order that could be universally accepted and understood was the root of everything. Without such an order, how could they recruit geniuses and masters? If it was just for the yin-yang life and death diagram, it was not worth it. No matter how important that thing was, it was definitely not as important as the Yi family's foundation. In fact, if it wasn't because the yin-yang life and death diagram was too important, this kind of thing wouldn't even be qualified to be discussed in the Yi family's meeting. The real reason why they valued the yin-yang diagram of life and death was because it was the same as the primordial spirit of the demon. For everyone, it was very difficult to see through life and death. For thousands of years, it was unknown how many heroes were stuck at this stage, but they died of old age at this stage. It could be said that heroes were past their prime. If they had the yin-yang life and death diagram, it would undoubtedly be very useful for comprehending life and death. This was also a very important matter. However, it was just a fragment of the diagram after all. Its value was greatly reduced. Those people outside could rob it shamelessly, but they couldn't. After all, Yi Xuan was also a disciple of the Yi family. If this matter was spread out, how could they continue to face the world? Regarding this matter, as Yi Jintian said, we don't need to challenge the Yi family's foundation just for this yin-yang life and death diagram. This is absolutely unacceptable, said the Yi family's patriarch, Yi Tianxiong. As the Yi family's patriarch, he couldn't accept this kind of thing the most. Destroying the Yi family's foundation was his great enemy. Even the patriarch had already said so. Among the crowd, although there were still some people who were quite dissatisfied, there was nothing they could do. Yi Tianxiong's words were tantamount to settling this matter. They couldn't challenge the patriarch's authority because the patriarch represented the Yi family's authority. Challenging the patriarch was equivalent to challenging the Yi family. They were also part of the Yi family, and also part of a high position and power. Only Yi Qian was still very unwilling. He said, "Then what about the representatives of the other forces? We can't just ignore them." "Yes, this is also a problem. Yi Jintian, isn't the Eastern Sea region at war with the Southern Sea region now? Do you hope that we can send experts to support them? Since Yixuan was able to kill Wang Jinyu, it means that he definitely already possesses the battle prowess of the Heaven Realm. Then, let's send him. With his strength, there's definitely nothing to say about the Eastern Sea region. This way, we can hone Yixuan, and at the same time, we can let him avoid the limelight. How about it? Chapter 1395. Clan Master is thoughtful. I have no objection, Yi Zhentian said with a smile. Now that things had come to this arrangement was undoubtedly the best. Under this kind of internal and external pressure, it was good enough that he did not suffer losses. Even if these things were originally supposed to be obtained by Yixuan, but it was like this in this combination. Nothing was taken for granted. This was the only thing he could do for Yixuan. Although he would eventually be sent to fight in the Endless Sea region, but the clan lord had already thought about him and tried his best to cover for him. So, he naturally couldn't be so ungrateful. Moreover, reading thousands of books was not as good as traveling thousands of miles. With more experience, he would naturally be able to improve. Just like this trip to the Wind King Star, he broke into the early stage of half-step celestial realm in one fell swoop. This was enough to surprise people. Seeing that the patriarch had settled the matter just like that, Yi Qian gritted his teeth in anger. However, there was nothing he could do. In the Yi family, the authority of the patriarch was supreme, and no one was allowed to cross the line. However, he suddenly thought that if Yixuan wanted to go to the Endless Sea to fight, then they would have a chance. Thinking of this, a fierce look flashed in his eyes. I'll let you be proud for a while. And this secret meeting, which no one knew about, finally came to an end without anyone knowing. Not long after Yixuan returned to the mortal secret realm, Yi Zhentian came to the door in person. Greetings, Master! Yixuan saw that Yi Zhentian actually came in person, and quickly said. Even in the past few years, there were not many opportunities for Yi Zhentian to come in person, because after all, he was the Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall, and he was busy. Although he was Yixuan's master, most of the cultivation was guided by Elder Yi. No need to be so polite. I heard that you were seriously injured before. Is your body better now? Yi Zhentian asked with concern. It's okay, and I have almost recovered, Yixuan said quickly. On the side, Elder Yi could not help but tease. Hall Master, you can rest assured that this kid has his own healing technique. As long as he doesn't die on the spot, he will soon recover. Then I'm relieved. It's just that Yi Zhentian also saw the faintly discernible power of life and power of death alternating on Yixuan's body. He immediately opened his magic eyes and saw that the map fragment inside Yixuan's body was constantly tearing apart his body, and was in the process of recovering. Those who don't know might think that you have taken advantage of it. Now it seems that you have suffered a lot because of this yin-yang life and death diagram. Yi Zhentian shook his head and said, Master's insight is like a torch. Indeed, this is only a fragment of the yin-yang diagram of life and death, so the yin and yang forces of life and death are not balanced at all. Right now, I'm in a painful process. If this continues, my body will not be able to endure it and collapse on the spot, Yixuan said. This was definitely not an alarmist, because the power of death was constantly consuming his life potential, and the power of life was stimulating his life potential to recover. This process was actually the same as the process of continuous healing of Phoenix regeneration technique. But the speed of consumption was too fast. Every other day, a large amount of his life force was consumed. If this continued, it would not take long for him to die of old age because of the consumption of his life force. This is a problem. I can see that you are now forcibly suppressing the yin-yang life and death diagram, but this is not a long-term solution. You must find a way to completely seal it, Yi Zhentian said. Wait for a moment, I will ask the Elder Ancestor to directly seal the yin-yang life and death diagram, so that it will no longer affect your cultivation. You mean the word seal? At this time, Elder Yi said, our Yi family has also collected some ancient characters condensed by ancient powers. Although it is only a pseudo-Dao character, its power is not bad. If we can really ask for the word seal for you, then it may not be enough to seal the entire yin-yang life and death diagram. But if it is only a remnant of yin-yang life and death diagram, it is more than enough. Yi Shiwen suddenly understood because there were two ancient characters in his body. Although they were pseudo-Dao characters, their power was not bad. They also contained many martial arts principles, and he could continue to comprehend them. The word seal must be similar to the word fighting. It was just that he did not expect that the Yi family even had such ancient characters. Their background was really not ordinary. Yes, it is that word seal, Yi Zhentian said. The origin of this yin-yang life and death diagram is not small, so ordinary seals are simply useless. They simply cannot resist the alternating erosion of the power of life and death. Even if it is that word seal, I am not very sure that it will have an effect and can be sustained. After all, it is not a real Dao character. If it is a real Dao character, then it can even be suppressed by a divine tool. However, a real Dao character, even if it is only a word, is in existence more precious than a divine tool. In the current situation, we can only suppress it for as long as we can. Yi Zhentian continued, this may not be a bad thing for you. You may not be able to feel the yin-yang life and death power in this yin-yang life and death diagram now, but when you really stand on the critical point of life and death, you will understand why so many people want to compete for this yin-yang life and death diagram. Not to mention its terrible power, just the fact that it can comprehend life and death is enough to make countless people crazy. Master, I am afraid that this matter is also making things difficult for you, Yi Shiwen said with a somewhat bitter smile. What is there to be difficult about? This is what you deserve. These people actually want to deprive you of it. They have to ask me whether I agree or not. The one who is really difficult is not me. I only care about being tough. Everyone says that I am a stone in the latrine pit, smelly and hard. I don't need to consider those things that are difficult for you. The one who is really difficult is the family head, Yi Zhentian said. Those pressures and whatnot are all withstanding by the family head. The decision of the family has also been made. It is your credit, and it will not be without you. It is impossible for those people outside to threaten our Yi family. However, in order to reduce the pressure on the family head, it is better for you to go out and lie low. As long as they can't find you, then it is impossible for them to cause trouble, Yi Zhentian said. Yi Shiwen thought for a moment, and immediately nodded in agreement. It was already very difficult for him to feel grateful that the Yi family could do this for him. After all, at this time, it was not only the Wang family who had come aggressively. There were also many big and small forces. These people spoke in an orderly manner. Because of you, their disciple was killed by the devil. Shouldn't you take responsibility? Yi Shiwen had always scoffed at this kind of argument. He was not the one who killed the disciple. If they had the ability, they could look for the Abyss Devil Lord. It was simply impossible to make him take responsibility for this matter. It is enough for the family to go this far. But where should I go to lie low now? Yi Shiwen asked. It is like this, I have discussed with the family head. We plan to let you go to the Eastern Sea region and represent our Yi family to assist the Eastern Sea region, Yi Zhentian said. Assist the Eastern Sea region? What's wrong with the Eastern Sea region? Yi Shiwen quickly asked. Yi Shiwen had already found out when he was in the Endless Sea region. Among the 4 big sea regions, only the Eastern Sea region was controlled by the experts of the human race. The other 3 were all under the control of the sea race forces. Now, the Eastern Sea region and the Southern Sea region are fighting. It seems to be related to a newly discovered spirit crystal vein at the bottom of the sea. I'm afraid there are tens of trillions of spirit crystals in it, Yi Zhentian said. However, it can't be considered as an all-out war. In the current environment, even a local war is already the limit. Tens of trillions of spirit crystals. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but feel a little dizzy even though he was used to being extravagant. After all, this mineral vein would bring him an astronomical amount of wealth if he could mine it. It was no wonder that such a war had broken out between the two sea domains. This is very normal in the sea region. The endless sea region is not like the continent. In particular, the eastern sea region and the southern sea region belong to two big clans. So, it is very easy for conflicts to start a fire, Yi Zhentian said. In fact, the eastern sea region itself is supported by many forces of the human race. Otherwise, it would not be able to have a foothold in the endless sea region. Moreover, it has even become one of the super sea regions. Yi Shiwen nodded. He had already guessed this. If it wasn't like this, it really wouldn't make sense for the sea race to allow the existence of the eastern sea region to exist. Now, the eastern sea region is asking for help from all sides of the human race. They hope that we can send some experts to help. All the major forces of the human race will send people there. Our Yi family is no exception. With your current strength, I'm afraid that you are comparable to the first level of the heaven realm. Even if you don't make a big contribution, at least you will be able to protect yourself. This is enough. This is to let you lie low. After a year and a half, when this period of limelight has passed, you can come back, Yi Zhentian said. Yi Shiwen suddenly understood. So, it was like this. However, he had to admit that Yi Zhentian had considered everything thoroughly. Basically, he had considered all aspects for him. Since things had come to this, he had no other way. I'll listen to Master's decision, Yi Shiwen said with a grin. Just don't know when we will set off. It will take a few more months. This matter is not urgent. I don't know how long the war between the two big sea regions will last. There is no need to rush to set off. Wait for me to get the word seal for you and seal your yin-yang life and death diagram. Yi Zhentian looked at Yi Shiwen and said. Chapter 1396. The existence of the yin-yang life and death diagram was like a time bomb to Yi Shiwen. He didn't know when it would explode. There might be benefits in the future, but it couldn't be seen in a short period of time. Each of these ancient characters was condensed from the lifetime of martial arts experience and understanding of a mighty figure. They contained great power. Although they were called pseudo-Dao characters, in reality, how many people had actually seen real Dao characters? They were characters that could only be automatically produced by the world under extreme circumstances. For most people, these were the real Dao characters. Even for a colossus like the Yi clan, there wouldn't be too many Dao characters sealed in the Yi clan. If this wasn't the case, Yi Qiong and Ting Tong Tian wouldn't have fought to the death for the fight character. They fought until the treasury was about to close before they finally came out. If they were not careful, they might be locked in there forever. There was a seal character in the Yi clan's collection. In terms of seals, there was nothing more powerful than this seal character. Although Yi Shiwen usually used the martial character and the fighting character to suppress the demon seed and the yin-yang life and death diagram, the effect was not too ideal. It could be said that it was twice the effort for half the result. Yi Zhentian had to pay a lot of effort and a lot of price to obtain this seal character from Yi Shiwen. So, Yi Shiwen was very grateful in his heart. Although Yi Zhentian rarely came to guide his practice, but he could always ask Yi Shiwen if there were any problems. Moreover, Yi Zhentian took good care of Yi Shiwen in all aspects. There were still a few months before he would set off for the Eastern Sea region. These few months were definitely not a time that he could afford to waste. He still needed to gather information about the war between the Eastern Sea region and the Southern Sea region. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy, and you will emerge victorious in every battle. If he were to plunge headlong into the war without knowing anything, and moreover, it would be a clash between two big sea regions, it would be tantamount to courting death for him. As time passed, Yi Shiwen collected more and more information. He was the disciple of the Law Enforcement Hall Master. In other words, he was the young Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall. It wasn't a problem for him to access some information about the law enforcement hall. Moreover, it was related to his trip to the Eastern Sea region this time. Yi Zhentian also rented a room for him. More and more information began to be gathered to his side, allowing Yi Shiwen to sort out his thoughts. Although the clash this time was said to be a clash between the Eastern Sea region and the Southern Sea region, it should actually be said that it was only a clash between three forces from the two great sea regions. This mine, which was worth tens of trillions of spirit crystals, was discovered at the intersection of three major forces, namely the sea race's Cold Whale clan, the Mountain Sea Pavilion, and the human race's Heavenly Rain Palace. Within the Eastern Sea region and the Southern Sea region, these three great factions could be considered as powerful factions. They were one of the pillars that formed the two great sea regions. The clash this time was a competition between the three forces. Originally, the three forces were evenly matched. However, with the recent alliance of the Cold Whale clan and the Mountain Sea Pavilion, the Heavenly Rain Palace began to be defeated. The three forces were at most evenly matched. However, now that the Cold Whale clan and the Mountain Sea Pavilion had joined forces, the Heavenly Rain Palace was no longer a match for them. According to the information received, the Frost Whale clan and the Mountain Sea Pavilion seemed to intend to join hands to drive out the Heavenly Rain Palace first, and then finally decide the winner and loser. They might even join hands to divide the spirit crystals among themselves to see who would be able to seize the spirit crystal mine, which was worth billions of spirit crystals. After all, they were both from the sea race. They were much closer to the Heavenly Rain Palace than to the human race. In the face of such a situation, the Heavenly Rain Palace had no choice but to ask for help from the Eastern Sea region. With the intervention of other forces in the Eastern Sea region, the sea race of the Southern Sea region could not sit still when they saw this scene. They immediately joined the battle. From the initial local conflict, there were signs of it evolving into a full-scale conflict between the two sea regions. At this time, the Eastern Sea region could only ask for help from the various major forces of the human race. Under such circumstances, although the major forces of the human race could not fully intervene, after all, a full-scale war with the sea race for tens of trillions of spirit crystals was simply a fantasy. They could not just stand by and watch. Therefore, each force might send some experts to support. These people should not be underestimated. There were so many forces in the human race. If each force sent some experts, it would be a huge group of experts. Moreover, all of them were outstanding and elites. The appearance of these people on the battlefield could undoubtedly change the situation of the battle. The reason why Yi Zhentian asked Yi Shiwen to go to the Eastern Sea region was not only to lie low, but also to train him. Time passed day by day as Yi Shiwen collected information. Another month had passed, and Yi Zhentian once again arrived at the number 1 secret territory. "You got the seal?" At this time, Elder Yi, who was giving a lecture, suddenly opened his eyes and said to the sky, "I really can't hide anything from you." Yi Zhentian's hearty laughter came from the sky. Yi Zhentian's figure quickly appeared in the sky. At this time, Yi Shiwen's whole body was soaked in the 8 treasures heaven and earth cauldron, enduring the boiling of medicinal herbs. In this short period of 1 month, a considerable part of his vitality had been consumed. Although it could not be seen on the surface, one could still feel the weakening of his vitality, as long as they carefully felt it. Even if he swallowed those medicinal herbs to restore his life, it could not keep up with the damage caused by the power of death and power of life in his body. It could be seen how terrifying this yin-yang life and death diagram was. If Yi Zhentian had not said that he would get the seal for him, he might have tried his best to get this yin-yang life and death diagram out. Yi Shiwen was just about to get up, but he was stopped by Yi Zhentian, who said, "Don't move, just stay inside. I've already asked for the word seal for you, but it can only seal him temporarily. This isn't the real solution," Yi Zhentian said with a dignified look. "The best way is to snatch the other half of the yin-yang life and death diagram from the hands of the Abyss Devil Lord. In that case, with the complete yin-yang life and death diagram, You will even have the opportunity to break through life and death, and enter the path of immortality. The other way is to comprehend the power of life and death as soon as possible, and reach the stage of mutual restraint. In this case, you will be able to draw out the power of death in your body, and achieve a balance with the power of life. In this case, not only will your cultivation have a huge improvement, but you will also be able to use the power of life and death to subdue the enemy. For you, this is undoubtedly one more trump card to subdue the enemy. Yi Shiwen listened, and couldn't help but smile bitterly. These two methods seemed to be effective, but in fact, they were just flowers in a mirror and the moon in the water. The Abyss Devil Lord was an existence of society. From the situation he had obtained, he was at least at the level of the Yi clan's patriarch. With his cultivation, he didn't know how many years it would take to reach that level. Moreover, snatching the thing from the hands of the Abyss Devil Lord was something that Yi Shiwen absolutely wouldn't think about, because it was no different from courting death. And there was no need to mention the other one. The power of life and death could almost be said to be one of the most difficult paths to understand. Life and death were eternal topics of the Great Way, and existed for as long as time and space. If it was so easy to comprehend, that Devil Lord wouldn't have been unable to comprehend it for countless years, and could only rely on the yin-yang life and death diagram to protect the last bit of his spirit from destruction. Could a person who could cultivate to that level be an idiot? Naturally not. On the contrary, a person who had accumulated great luck and great wisdom would still be annihilated in a puff of smoke no matter where he was today. Neither of these two paths was feasible for him, or it could be said that there was no way to achieve it in a short period of time. Yi Zhentian didn't say much, and directly spread out his big hand. A seal character immediately appeared in the sky. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen only felt that the whole world was faintly sealed. He almost felt that countless forces in his body were faintly suppressed, and even his divinity was no exception. Almost in an instant, the divinity in his body almost reacted automatically, and wanted to resist, but was quickly suppressed by Yi Shiwen. Immediately after, Yi Zhentian directly inserted the seal character into Yi Shiwen's body on the spot. Ah! Yi Shiwen directly let out a low roar. This seal character integrated into his body bit by bit, almost as if it was going to tear his whole body apart, and then stuff something into it. This seal character, as soon as it entered, seemed to suppress everything in Yi Shiwen's body. The demon seed, the martial character, the fighting character, the Mingxin ancient tree, and the mysterious space all seemed to be rebelling all of a sudden. All of them surged up, and all of a sudden, it almost shook the sky. Yi Zhentian looked at Yi Shiwen. Although he couldn't see the situation in Yi Shiwen's body clearly, he could more or less see some of it. Something that could compete with the martial arts experience condensed by a powerful figure like the seal character would not be an ordinary thing. And in Yi Shiwen's body, there were so many of them. Yi Shiwen's fortuitous encounters were much more than he had imagined. But at this time, he couldn't care so much, and focused all his attention on sealing the seal character into Yi Shiwen's body. Bit by bit, he didn't dare to relax even a little. This was not an ordinary thing. If there was the slightest mistake, it might cause Yi Shiwen's body to explode on the spot. Time, minutes and seconds passed. After an unknown period of time, this seal character was finally completely integrated into Yi Shiwen's body. Although it was only a preliminary integration, Yi Shiwen could already feel that the power of life and death had been suppressed a lot. At least, it was no longer frantically tearing his body, and using his body as a battlefield, but instead turned to fight against this seal character. This made him heave a sigh of relief. Chapter 1397. However, what made him a little depressed was that this seal character had faintly suppressed all kinds of things in his body. Whether it was the divine spirit ancient scripture, the mysterious space, the enlightening mind ancient tree, or the other two ancient characters, all of them had faint signs of being suppressed. Especially the two ancient characters, which were originally just rubbed, mainly the essence of martial arts in it. At this time, it actually showed signs of being completely suppressed. These were the fundamental reasons why Yishiwen was above everyone else. Now, they were actually suppressed. If this continued, he might not even be able to exert 10% of his strength. This was simply not worth it. You haven't completely mastered this seal yet, so it may suppress your strength as well. However, you still have enough time to refine this seal. Although you can't make this seal your own for the time being, it's still possible for you to keep this seal without affecting your normal life, Yijintian said. Yishiwen nodded. This was the only way now. This yin-yang life and death diagram was more or less like a disaster. Not long after delivering the word seal, Yijintian quickly left again. He was the hall master of the law enforcement hall. Every day, he had a lot of things to do. Even if he came to the number 1 secret territory, he still needed to take time to deal with it. And then, Yishiwen spent the next time constantly refining the word seal. As this word was constantly refined by Yishiwen, Yishiwen's strength also slowly recovered to the peak state. With this word seal suppressing the yin-yang life and death diagram in Yishiwen's body, Yishiwen could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Yishiwen was pleasantly surprised to find that this seal character could even suppress this devil seed. Although it couldn't stop the growth of the devil seed, it could suppress the growth of the devil seed to an acceptable level. This was definitely a pleasant surprise for Yishiwen. This strengthened Yishiwen's idea. If he could completely refine this word, it could definitely make his strength to the next level. And a few months passed in the blink of an eye. Yishiwen just constantly refined the word seal and listened to Elder Ye's explanation. For a contemporary martial arts master like Elder Ye, just a few short months of explanation for Yishiwen had unimaginable benefits. Yishiwen's understanding of martial arts had deepened by a level. Although these improvements couldn't be seen on the surface, they would definitely play a crucial role in Yishiwen's future cultivation. During the few months that he was resting, the entire ancient Baron's continent wasn't peaceful. Instead, it was like boiling water that was boiling and boiling. First, the major forces joined forces to threaten the Yi family. Although their excuses were high-sounding, everyone knew very well that it was for the existence of the yin-yang life and death diagram. This was also the only reason that they came. However, the Yi clan didn't compromise in the face of the joint coercion of the major forces. Instead, they fought back in a very tough manner. The Wang clan had indeed died in the hands of the Yi clan. So, there was no other excuse. However, how could the disciples of the other major forces be blamed on Yishiwen? They had been beheaded by the Abyss Devil Lord. So, they should seek revenge from the Abyss Devil Lord if they had the ability. The war of words between the Yi family and the major forces never ended. However, no one was able to convince the other party. This matter actually became a case without a lead, and there was no way to pursue it. After all, for both sides this was the best they could do, because no one could retreat. This was related to the young masters of their respective forces, so they couldn't afford to retreat. However, it was impossible for them to start a war just because of these few people. They were all tyrant forces with terrifying strength. Once they started a war, it would lead to the destruction of the world. Such an outcome was absolutely unacceptable to them. In addition to wrangling with the Yi family, the major forces joined forces to encircle and annihilate the demon clan. This time, a demon like the Abyss Demon Lord appeared, which completely shocked the 4 major forces. Many powerful seniors who were in seclusion were alarmed. The major forces joined forces. Even if each force only sent out a few experts, it would still be a huge number. They formed such a punitive army and killed their way into the depths of the starry sky. However, very soon, they received news that shocked the ancient land of antiquity once again. This incomparably powerful conquering army had actually failed. Moreover, it was not an ordinary failure. It was a crushing defeat, an extremely crushing defeat. The number of experts below the celestial realm was incalculable. Just the experts of the celestial realm alone had fallen in the hundreds. Even the peak of the celestial realm, who were tyrannical figures of the various forces, had fallen in the battle. When this news came out, it instantly shocked the ancient land of antiquity. Since when did the demon race possess such tyrannical strength in the ancient Barrens continent? Many people were horrified. It wasn't easy for them to drive the demon race out. Now, they actually nurtured a tiger that would invite calamity and form such a large-scale demon race force. Slowly, the battle situation was revealed bit by bit. The matter regarding the Abyss Demon Lord became the target of public criticism. It was rumored that the Abyss Demon Lord fought fiercely against the 10 great hegemons. Moreover, he acted rudely, killing 3 peak heaven tier experts consecutively, which directly caused the entire army to collapse. This army was originally formed by the joint forces of various clans. Each of them had their own ulterior motives. At this time, it was naturally impossible for them to fight to the death. Instantly, they were defeated. They were chased all the way back to the edge of the ancient Desolation continent. Only then did they manage to gather their troops again. However, the losses they suffered were so great that it was enough to make the hearts of these forces twitch. Facing such a situation, all the major forces were enraged. Regardless of whether it was the Human Clan, the Demon Clan, the 100 Races Alliance, or the Oceanic Clan, all the great hegemons of these 4 major forces were enraged. The Human Royal Court even released the news that they might invite the old seniors of the Royal Court who were said to have passed away to personally take action. They must definitely kill the Abyss Demon Lord and destroy his prestige. They must suppress the trend of the Demon Clan. Under the situation where the entire world was shouting to kill the Demon Clan, Yi Shiwen's matter was selectively forgotten by many people. Compared to the expedition army that suffered heavy losses, Yi Shiwen's matter was simply insignificant. Who would still remember his matter? In other words, the Abyss Demon Lord had suddenly become a figure at the heart of the struggle. Compared to the terrifying Abyss Demon Lord, Yi Shiwen was simply an insignificant figure. He couldn't even cause a ripple. Even the conflict between the Southern Sea region and the Eastern Sea region had become a small matter. The mainstream of the entire world was shouting to kill the Demon Clan. Under such circumstances, Yi Shiwen and the experts of the Yi Clan who were going to assist the Eastern Sea region had also gathered. When Yi Shiwen rushed to the meeting place, he didn't expect to see a familiar person. This person was none other than Yi Qiong. This time, Yi Qiong was also the leader of the Yi Clan who was going to assist the Heavenly Rain Palace. This time, Yi Qiong was also in charge of the Yi Clan's assistance to the Heavenly Rain Palace. After asking, he found out that these years, as the younger generation represented by the 5 hegemons had grown up, many matters had been handed over to them by the clan's experts. This way, not only could they cultivate the younger generation's experts, but at the same time, they could also make time for the older generation's experts to comprehend the Tao of eternal life. For both sides, there was no harm in doing so. Haha, you didn't expect this, did you? We actually meet again now. Yi Qiong laughed. Compared to the time when he was in the treasury, Yi Qiong's bearing was a notch higher. There was a faint sharpness hidden in his body. Clearly, he had comprehended a lot of the fighting character he had obtained in the treasury, and his cultivation had also improved a lot. Yi Qiong's mouth revealed an extremely warm smile. He didn't put on any airs at all. He didn't look down on Yi Shiwen because of his current cultivation. The last time I saw you, you could only fight against a half-step Heaven Realm expert. Now I heard that even Wang Jinyu of the Wang clan died in your hands? Yi Qiong said with a smile. TSK, heroes really come from the young, and each generation is stronger than the last. Yi Qiong's face revealed a bit of a smile. The Wang clan has always been against my Yi clan, and has even targeted my Yi clan several times. Even in the royal court, they have tried to steal my Yi clan's position many times. Speaking of this, Yi Qiong's face revealed a bit of anger. The grievances between the Wang clan and the Yi clan had lasted for many years. Especially in recent years, the Wang clan's strength had continued to increase. In contrast, the Yi clan had been constantly targeted, and everyone in the Yi clan didn't have a good impression of the Wang clan. This time, you guys have taught them a lesson, ha ha ha! Yi Qiong said with a laugh. Yishiwen smiled and said, "This is also because the Wang clan has gone too far. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done this. I heard that you also came from the Endless Sea. You should be more familiar with the environment above the Endless Sea than I am," Yiqiong said. "When the time comes, if there is anything I have not considered carefully, you must remind me immediately," Yiqiong said very seriously. Although this was only a confrontation between three forces, for them, if they were not careful, it could still be fatal. "Yes." Yiqiong then introduced the other members to Yishiwen. In addition to Yishiwen, who was a half step into the celestial realm, all of them were powerful masters of the celestial realm, and they were all experts of their respective clans. A team of more than a dozen heaven realm experts was enough to dominate an area and shake the wind and clouds. The group did not stay for long, and immediately rushed to where the heavenly rain palace of the Eastern Sea was. Chapter 1398. In the Eastern Sea region, although the Heavenly Rain Palace wasn't the largest force, it was definitely one of the first-rate forces. It could even be ranked in the top 10 of the Eastern Sea region. Otherwise, a small force like the Yi family wouldn't be able to attract the attention of a force of this level. However, even such a force was powerless against the alliance of the Frost Whale clan and the Mountain Sea Pavilion. The people from the Yi family didn't rush over. Since the war would last for a long time, there was no need for them to rush. The group of people quickly flew out of the ancient Baron's continent. Their figures flew across the surface of the sea, and the powerful aura of the heaven realm scared the many ferocious beasts in the sea so much that they did not dare to approach. They trembled under the sea. The less intelligent a ferocious beast was, the more sensitive it would be to this aura. After flying for 3 days and 3 nights, the group finally reached the border between the Eastern Sea region and the Southern Sea region. Although it was the North, South, East, and West Sea region, there weren't many areas where they intersected. Most of the areas were filled up by many small sea regions, acting as a buffer zone between the fused supersea regions. There weren't many points where the Southern Sea region and the Eastern Sea region intersected. There was only a small area where they intersected. However, it was in this small area that an ore vein worth a few trillion spirit crystals was discovered. Facing such a huge amount of wealth, no one could remain calm. From time to time, one could see the silhouettes of people fighting on the sea. What was slightly different from the situation on land was that many people were riding ferocious beasts in the sea and ambushing the army. The huge bodies of these ferocious beasts were the most powerful weapons. The people from the Yi family didn't stop and quickly rushed to the Heavenly Rain Palace. The Heavenly Rain Palace was located on a very large island. This was also the habit of human forces. Although a person's cultivation had reached a certain level, they could go up into the sky, dive into the ground, swim in the water, and swim in the fire. They were omnipotent. However, humans were terrestrial creatures. This was deeply ingrained in their bones, and it wouldn't change even if their cultivation became stronger. The people from the Yi family had just arrived. The powerful aura of the Heaven Realm quickly alerted the experts of the Heavenly Rain Palace. Although the Heavenly Rain Palace was said to be on an island, the island was very large. It was almost a small continent. However, this was not a rare sight in the Endless Sea region. On the contrary, the Endless Sea region was filled with them. Yi Qiong and a group of Celestial Realm experts entered the depths of the Heavenly Rain Palace to communicate with the higher-ups of the Heavenly Rain Palace, leaving Yi Shiwen outside. Yi Shiwen was not very interested in these things. "Brother Yi!" A figure slowly walked over. It was a woman in her early 20s. She wore a long green dress and had a graceful figure. She slowly walked over. "May I know who you are?" Yi Shiwen asked in a somewhat strange manner. "I am Qiu Yao," the woman said with a faint smile. Yi Shiwen immediately remembered that he had collected a lot of information about the Heavenly Rain Palace before coming here. Among them, there was information about this Qiu Yao. Qiu Yao was a top expert of the younger generation of the Heavenly Rain Palace. Although she had not entered the all-knowing scholar's hidden dragon list, but her strength could not be underestimated. After all, there were way too many powerful martial geniuses in this world, and the hidden dragon rank, even including the reserve list, would only have 200 people. Most of the martial geniuses would not even make it to the rank. So it is, Miss Chiu, I have heard a lot about you. Yi Shiwen cupped his hands and said. Compared to Brother Ye's fame on the Wind King planet, suppressing everyone with your strength, all these are nothing more than false fame. Qiu Yao smiled. Her smile was sweet, causing others to naturally have a good impression of her. This time, Brother Yi came to help our Heavenly Rain Palace. I am really grateful. I just did something that was within my power. Yi Shiwen shook his head and said with a smile. What he said was the truth. They were just guests after all. It was okay to give a helping hand, but it was impossible to expect them to fight to the death for the Heavenly Rain Palace. The people of the Heavenly Rain Palace naturally knew this, but they did not care. This empty reputation is nothing at all. That's right, your empty reputation is nothing at all. It's funny that someone actually put you on a pedestal. At this time, a cold voice came from the sky, and the tone was full of disdain. Then, a figure descended from the sky. It was a young man wearing a blue robe, and he was as sharp as an unsheathed sword. Brother Wu, how can you speak like that? At this time, Qiu Yao frowned and softly scolded. Yi Shiwen slightly smiled, but he did not care. Although this young man's words were unpleasant to hear, Yi Shiwen did not have the mood to argue with him. If he would get angry at anyone who said unpleasant words, then he would be angry at too many people in his life. Didn't I say so? I don't know if that Bai Shaoxing is a good-for-nothing. He's just a warrior at the initial stage of half-step heaven realm. Not to mention the desolate antiquity, even in our Heavenly Rain Palace, there are many people like him. What does he count as? Junior Wu sneered. Brother Wu, Brother Yi is an honored guest of our Heavenly Rain Palace, and this time, he came to help our Heavenly Rain Palace. Don't cause trouble, Qiu Yao scolded. Do we need their help? In fact, Senior Brother Wang has already applied to the Wang family. Soon, a large number of experts from the Wang family will come. We don't need the Yi family's help at all, Junior Brother Wu said coldly. Wang family. Yi Shiwen's eyes flashed. In fact, although this Eastern Sea region was known as One Sea region, but the forces inside it still had different inclinations. The entire Eastern Sea region was supported by all the major forces of the human race, and only then could it have a foothold in the Endless Sea region. However, the major forces of the human race also supported different targets, and this Heavenly Rain Palace had always been supported by the Yi family from behind. Now that the Wang family had infiltrated in, it could be seen how serious the Wang family's encroachment on the Yi family's territory was in recent years. One mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. Since the Yi clan was already here, the other clans were only here to go through the formalities. However, the Wang clan had actually sent a large number of experts here. The meaning of confrontation was very obvious. This Senior Brother Wang, could it be Wang Zhenfei? Yi Shiwen suddenly remembered that the report mentioned that this Wang Zhenfei was a member of the Wang family, and had entered the Heavenly Rain Palace in the early years. He did not expect that the Heavenly Rain Palace would actually use this opportunity to contact the Wang family. This was definitely not good news for the Yi family. But then he smiled, a little indifferent, but also a little disdainful. What are you smiling at? Seeing Yi Shiwen smile, that Junior Brother Wu was immediately very unhappy. Brother Yi, Junior Brother Wu is young and insensible. I hope you don't take offense. Junior Brother Wu has been good friends with Senior Brother Wang Zhenfei since childhood, so when he heard that Brother Yi killed the experts of the Wang family on the Wind King planet, he more or less felt a little uncomfortable. Please forgive him. At this time, Qiu Yao said secretly. Yi Shiwen just sneered. I'm laughing at your overconfidence. As for what Qiu Yao said, he did not take it to heart at all. Young and insensible? Ridiculous. A few 100-years-old person was actually insensible? What did you say? Sure enough, That junior brother Wu's expression suddenly changed, and he said angrily. Yi Shiwen sneered and did not say anything. He just said to Qiu Yao, Miss Qiu, I don't know where the place your heavenly rain palace has prepared for us to stay this time. I'm tired, I want to go rest first. That junior brother Wu immediately flew into a rage. Yi Shiwen was openly looking down on him. When had he ever been ignored like this? Chapter 1399. Many people had such a guess in their hearts. After all, many people didn't have much of an idea of Bai Shaoxing, who had recently risen to prominence. Therefore, many people were unwilling to believe the list he pushed out, especially those who weren't on the list. There were many geniuses and elites in the ancient Baron's continent, and they were the most outstanding existences in their respective forces. Yet, they couldn't even be on the list. It was conceivable that they wouldn't believe this list. Qiu Yao didn't really believe that Yi Shiwen had the strength to surpass the Heaven Realm. After all, the difference between the half-step Heaven Realm and the Heaven Realm was like heaven and earth. But now, after seeing Yi Shiwen's strength with her own eyes, she finally believed it. Perhaps Bai Shaoxing's hidden dragon list wasn't that ridiculous. Yi Shiwen just shrugged indifferently and said, This time, it's just a small punishment. If he still doesn't know what's good for him, then don't blame me for being impolite. If junior brother Wu was still awake and saw Yi Shiwen's face as if he was teaching a junior a lesson, he would probably faint from anger on the spot. However, Qiu Yao didn't think much of it. Yi Shiwen had such strength, so he naturally had such confidence. Soon, Qiu Yao called someone to carry the unconscious junior brother Wu away and led Yi Shiwen to the depths of the Rain Palace. Who is this person? Why is senior sister Qiu leading him personally? How come I've never seen him before? Along the way, many people were quite curious about Yi Shiwen, who was personally led by Qiu Yao, and they pointed at him. Brother Yi, junior brother Wu and senior brother Wang Jinfei have always had a good relationship. Now I'm afraid senior brother Wang Jinfei won't let this matter go so easily, Qiu Yao said. Then let him come. I don't care anyway. I'll kill a few more. Yi Shiwen's words were cold. Qiu Yao could only smile at this. Yi Shiwen could reach such a height at such a young age, so he was definitely a decisive person. And these matters, rather than saying that it was a conflict between Yi Shiwen and Wang Jinfei, it was simply a microcosm of the battle between the Yi clan and the Wang clan. Under the guidance of Qiu Yao, Yi Shiwen quickly settled in the courtyard provided by the Heavenly Rain Palace for the Yi family. The news of Yi Shiwen injuring Brother Wu and causing him to lose consciousness quickly spread throughout the Heavenly Rain Palace, and immediately aroused the dissatisfaction of many people. Yi Shiwen had just arrived and he had injured an expert of their palace. What was going on? Even if he was an expert of Yi family, this was going too far. In addition to some people adding fuel to the fire, Yi Shiwen began to gradually become famous in the Heavenly Rain Palace. Although there were already some people who knew of Yi Shiwen's name, but in fact, no one cared too much. Although he was ranked 20th in the Hidden Dragon list, people would often only pay attention to the first or the top 3. At most, they would pay attention to some masters in the top 10. After the top 10, even if it was the 11th, there was a huge gap between the top 10 and the top 10, not to mention Yi Shiwen, who was ranked 20th. The only thing that interested people was how he was able to enter the Hidden Dragon list as a warrior of the early stage of half-step Celestial Realm. This made these masters who had already stepped into the late stage of half-step Celestial Realm. How could they endure this, not to mention that there were still many Celestial Realm masters under Yi Shiwen. This made the matter of Yi Shiwen faking the 20th in the Hidden Dragon list for a while, and all kinds of rumors and slanders continued. In the face of this situation, the higher-ups of the Heavenly Rain Palace also strangely kept silent. Although they did not encourage the emergence of this kind of rumor, they did not stop it, so all kinds of rumors and slanders spread even more. In the face of this situation, the Yi family could not help but hold a meeting. This kind of rumor that obviously slandered our Yi family appeared, and the Heavenly Rain Palace did not stop it at all. This intention is really too obvious. In the small courtyard, a celestial realm master said with a frown. How could there be an idiot who could cultivate to this level? They obviously want to test our Yi family's reaction. Another celestial realm master said. These people are simply ungrateful, completely forgetting that it was difficult for them to establish a foothold in the Eastern Sea region. If it were not for our Yi family, they would have already been destroyed. Now they think that they can treat us like this because they have the thigh of the Wang family? Humph, do they think we don't know? These years, the Heavenly Rain Palace has also secretly accepted many children of the Wang family as disciples. This is a sign that they want to completely drive our Yi family out. Yi Shiwen frowned slightly. The situation of the Heavenly Rain Palace was obviously more complicated than he had originally expected. This time, the reason why the Yi family even sent Yi Qiong of Nan Ba Tian personally, Yi Shiwen originally thought that it was to show support for the Heavenly Rain Palace. Although Nan Ba Tian's current cultivation was not considered extremely tyrannical, his identity was one of the future leaders of the Yi family. With such an identity, he personally went to the Heavenly Rain Palace to deal with this matter, undoubtedly proving the importance of the Heavenly Rain Palace. Originally, he thought that it was to rope in and support them, but now it seemed that it was not so, and even in this, there was a meaning of warning. Yes, the Yi family may want to take this opportunity to warn the Heavenly Rain Palace not to act rashly. Even if they hugged the thigh of the Wang family, so what? Could the Heavenly Rain Palace twist the behemoth Yi family? The things here were far more complicated than he had initially understood. There were also many forces like the Heavenly Rain Palace that were influenced by the Yi family. Over the years, the Wang family had been competing with the Yi family for the influence of these forces. There were already many forces that originally belonged to the Yi family, and now they had openly expressed their support to the Wang family. Therefore, this also caused the upper echelons of the Yi family to begin to shake, and in recent years, they began to strengthen the control of these forces. Originally, when the Yi family and the Wang family were evenly matched, these forces naturally did not feel anything, but when the Wang family's power obviously surpassed the Yi family's, they naturally began to become restless. This was also the reason why Yi Qiong personally came. It was to subdue them. This is nothing. In this world, there are many ruthless people, Yi Qiong said. We are helping the Heavenly Rain Palace. In the end, it is also for the interests of the people. There is nothing wrong with it. This in itself was a very real problem. According to the news from Master Yi Jin, now there seems to be a force in the upper echelons of the Heavenly Rain Palace pushing the Wang family to support the Heavenly Rain Palace. The Heavenly Rain Palace is our bridgehead in the Endless Sea. If we lose it, then we will lose the benefits in the Endless Sea. This is absolutely intolerable, Yi Qiong said. This Yi Jin was the representative of the Yi family in the Heavenly Rain Palace. A long time ago, he had already entered the Heavenly Rain Palace, and now he was the Deputy Palace Master of the Heavenly Rain Palace, a high position and power. This time, we came to prevent this kind of thing from happening, a master said. No matter what, at least we have the advantage now, don't we? Our Yi family has influenced the Heavenly Rain Palace for so many years, it is not comparable to the Wang family at all. As long as we are careful, the Heavenly Rain Palace will still be under the control of our Yi family, Yi Shiwen said at this time. And yes, Yi Shiwen is right, as long as we are careful, the Heavenly Rain Palace will still not break away from our control. If we really can't do it, we will cut the Gordian knot and change the upper echelons. I don't believe that all of them are determined to support the Wang family, Yi Qiong said with a cold expression. Don't doubt the strength of the Yi family, although they were at a disadvantage against the Wang family. If they wanted to deal with the Heavenly Rain Palace, they definitely had a way to change the upper echelons. In the past, the forces that broke away from the control of the Yi family all cut the Gordian knot, in one breath, all the factions that supported the Yi family, and finally broke free. But now that the movement of the Heavenly Rain Palace had been detected, how could they let this kind of thing happen again? Yi Shiwen, during this time, all the rumors and slanders are aimed at you. This is also good. We can focus all the attention on you, so that it will be convenient for us to do things. Yi Qiong looked at Yi Shiwen and said, No problem. Yi Shiwen nodded. During this time, here obviously it would not be a smooth journey. It could be said that there were external and internal troubles. At this time, Yi Shiwen finally understood why Yi Zhentian wanted him to come here to gain experience. Because if it was just fighting on the battlefield, Yi Shiwen not only had many such experiences, but he also had many. When the true martial school swept through the true martial domain, Yi Shiwen personally led the team, and the changes in the military formation were absolutely clear to him. Although the level of strength was different, the essence was the same. But now it seemed that it was indeed a good experience. After all, when he was in the true martial school, he had never encountered such a situation of external and internal troubles. The Heavenly Rain Palace, which he thought might be a friend, might stab him in the back, so he had to be vigilant at all times. After the plan was decided, the Yi family quickly dispersed, each with their own purpose. And just after the Yi family decided, the Wang family finally came. Compared to the Yi family's small team of only a dozen people, the Wang family could be said to come in a majestic manner. There were hundreds of people in the team, and they were in the limelight for a while. Soon, they attracted the attention of various forces in the Heavenly Rain Palace. Although these forces came to help, they were only 2 or 3 people. Although they were all masters, there were not many of them. Because this was the Yi family's territory, if they sent more people, they would inevitably be suspected of competing with the Yi family. But the Wang family came in a majestic manner, and their intentions were clear. If everyone did not know the Wang family's plan, then they would have lived in vain for the rest of their lives. For a time, the entire Heavenly Rain Palace seemed to have fallen into a feeling of the coming storm. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.